Case number 138 on the calendar, the matter of Lyons versus Lyons. Party's been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
Ms. Lyons, the defendant is your soon-to-be former daughter-in-law. She and your son have one child together.
Yes.
And according to your complaint, you believe she should be responsible for paying all of your legal fees and other expenses as a result of false charges that you claim she filed against you. Ms. Lyons says that while she did file charges against you, your conduct warranted those charges. It was a terrible experience that you and your family put her through, and she's going to describe it to me. So I think we're going to start with you.
Okay.
How long have you and Mrs. Lyons' son been married?
We've been married for almost 2 years now.
He is currently incarcerated, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what I read here, and he's incarcerated because, according to at least what I surmise, he was on probation.
Yes, ma'am.
When this incident occurred, and as a result of this incident, he was put back into jail to finish his sentence. He had already served part of his sentence. Is that right, madam?
Yes.
What was he incarcerated for? Do you know?
Originally, when he was 17, he was involved in a crime. It was a robbery.
Is that the only time he was arrested?
Yes. But the only time in his whole life? I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Yes, the only time in his whole life.
No, and well, in his adult life.
How old is he now?
He will be 21 in July.
Between 17 and 21, how many times was he arrested, Miss Lyons?
He was violated on probation when he reported to his probation officer because he failed a drug test for marijuana. Then this incident was the next time.
When he was violated, did he go back to prison?
He did. He went into a drug rehab program.
For how long?
6 months.
And then this incident?
Yes, ma'am.
Which sent him back to prison for how many years?
22 months.
Okay. Now, according to what I read in your answer, when your husband came out of his drug rehab, everything was okay? I mean, you were separated. You weren't together anymore.
Correct.
Is that right? But he was seeing your son?
Yes. Yes, he was.
What happened?
My roommate and I, we were going through some financial problems at that time, and I was not getting any kind of support from Richard, so I was pretty much forced to move to Gainesville with my brother until I got on my feet again. And then that's when Tanya and I had moved.
When did you move to Gainesville?
I believe it was between June 25th and June 30th.
According to you, you called the next day and let your husband know where you were living.
That's correct.
What happened next?
He got very furious on the telephone and basically started yelling at me and threatening me, telling me that when he got hold of Jeremy, I would not see him anymore, and just made a lot of verbal threats and did a lot of name-calling.
Now we're going to get to this incident that caused the problem, Mrs. Lyons. Why don't you tell me what happened?
Well, we sought counsel with a family law lawyer who advised us that because Lindsay and Richard were still married, because there was no case in court, he had as much legal right to his son as she did. And we decided Wednesday night that we would go Thursday to pick up Jeremy in Gainesville.
Who did Jeremy live with during the 6 months that your son was in drug rehab?
He lived primarily with his mother.
And before he went into drug rehab, was he working?
Yes, he was.
What kind of work was he doing?
He was helping his father. My husband was doing maintenance work. We ran an apartment complex.
So he wasn't doing much?
Actually, he was also working a sales job.
So he was working a lot?
Yes, ma'am.
And who was watching Jeremy while he was working a lot?
Well, if Lindsay was not working at that time, we were watching. If Lindsay was not working, she was watching.
Right.
If she was working, we watched.
So let's get the story straight, Miss Lyons. So the child is 2 years old, and his primary physical caretaker during those 2 years has been his mother. And you, your husband, and your son decided after you spoke to a lawyer to go and physically retrieve the child from his mother. That's what you decided to do.
Yes.
Tell me what happened.
We arrived at her brother's house, which was a small trailer that had 3 other adults and an infant child living there as well. Her brother's girlfriend, Amanda, answered the door, told us that Lindsay and Tanya and Jeremy had gone on the city bus downtown and to sell their blood for money. They were broke. So we went to the nearest bus stop. We saw Lindsay and Tanya and Jeremy coming up the road. Richard got out of the car, crossed the street to their side of the road. Lindsay handed Jeremy to Richard.
Excuse me, that is incorrect.
Just a second. Okay. Go ahead.
They stood there and talked for a few moments. And after a few moments, Richard turned and walked across the street to where we were parked.
Because you were going to take the baby.
We were going to visit with the
No,
baby.
no, no, that's not what you told me a moment ago. What you told me a moment ago was
yes,
you were going to take
the
the baby
for visitation. Yes, ma'am.
Baloney!
I'm sorry.
You weren't taking him for a visit. You were taking him back to where you lived so that when you had a custody case, you would have physical custody. The child would be in the physical custody of his father. I've been in this business a long time.
Yes, ma'am, I know you have.
So don't try to sugarcoat it. It was your intention to go there. You waited for them at the bus stop to take the child.
Yes.
Now continue as to what happened.
Well, Lindsay came across the street. She screamed at Richard.
What did she scream?
The first thing I heard was, "You're not taking my son." And he wrapped his arms around the baby, turned around to protect him. She was pulling on Jeremy's arm. The next thing I heard was, "Judy, Richard, get off my son." Her lover jumped on Richard. My husband got out of the car, pushed her off of Richard. She said something to him. He said, "Don't hit me." Got in the car.
Your husband was ultimately convicted, correct?
Of a misdemeanor.
He was convicted. Misdemeanor is crime.
Yes, ma'am, I know that.
Against Tanya.
Against Tanya, yes.
You were arrested.
Yes, we were.
You ultimately took the 2-year-old because you were able to get her off you. According to you, the car started and you were still hanging out of the car. Is that right?
Both Tanya and I were, yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You went to kidnap him. And now you're complaining that you were arrested and you had legal fees. That comes under the category of being too bad.
And later today,
She walked in, she called me and Kim in the bed together, and she just started going crazy. She was trying to cut me, cut Kim.
What was I supposed to do? Just let them continue doing what they was doing?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Deborah Lyons claims daughter-in-law Lindsay Lyons had her falsely arrested. Lindsay says Deborah tried to kidnap her 2-year-old son.
They left.
Correct.
You called the police.
I sure did.
How long did they have Jeremy in their custody before he was returned to you?
They had him about a day and a half. They had left with Jeremy. There was no car seat in the vehicle when they finally took off with him. And they, as far as I knew from what the police told me, they were arrested the very next day, and I was able to pick my son up that night.
You understand that I have no sympathy for you whatsoever.
I can tell.
The only one that I have sympathy for is this little 2-year-old.
He was
That's
a
the
year
only-
old at the time.
I don't care if he was a year old or if he's 15 months old.
Yeah,
That's the
well,
only one that I have
Richard was part of his life, Your Honor.
Madam, Richard hadn't been part of his life for 6 months because he was in a drug rehab program.
No,
he
we
was
took
living
care
with
of-
his mother. And you are pretty thick if you don't get the fact that if you have a grandchild and you want to see that grandchild and you want to be part of that grandchild's life, which is something that you enjoyed, I assume that while your son was in rehab, you saw him
Right, I took
regularly,
Jeremy to see my son.
regularly. So it's not as if his wife was trying to prevent you from visiting with him during the course of the 6 months immediately preceding this custodial interference. But you injected yourself, and instead of doing something that the law proposes is the appropriate way of dealing with a custody dispute, which is you go immediately to Gainesville or to Tampa, and your son files a petition for custody, and you have a hearing, you went to kidnap him. And now you're complaining that you were arrested and you had legal fees. That comes under the category of being too bad. Okay? Too bad.
Okay.
You have no case, Miss Lyons. You should have let the courts resolve this issue. Whatever you may think of your future former daughter-in-law's lifestyle doesn't impact the fact that she has been the child's primary physical caretaker. And if you want to be a good grandma, you help her.
Which I did.
And you continue to do that. How many times have you been arrested in your life?
Never.
That's one parent. The other one has been arrested for a violent crime, has been violated on probation twice, and is currently incarcerated. Judge, hearing that case? No issue.
Okay.
No issue. You have no case, Miss Lyons. It's unfortunate for you. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I disagree with her lifestyle choices.
I was very sad, and I knew, but my main concern was my son.
I have very strong beliefs and faiths, and I find it to be an abomination.
My gut tells me that I don't want to have anything to do with them.
She moved her lover in and just flaunted it in our face.
I don't want to put my son in that situation ever again.
My son still has father's rights, and he will sue for them, and I believe he will get them. And as long as he has rights, we will too.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Curry versus Orr. Step forward, please.
Shirley Curry is suing her son's ex-girlfriend, Nikki Orr, for trashing her home. Nikki claims she found Shirley's son in bed with another woman.
Miss Curry, I assume, based upon your complaint, that you were not at home at the time this incident occurred. Is that right?
Correct.
This is your son?
Yes.
But he was home.
Yes.
On what date did this incident occur?
The 28th of May.
And prior to that, how long had your son and Miss Orr been involved?
3 years.
And you liked her?
Yes.
She's a responsible gal?
From what I can tell.
Do you work?
No,
What do you do?
just homemaker.
A homemaker of?
I receive SSI,
What's the nature of your disability?
legally blind in the left eye.
Do you drive a car?
No,
How did you get to the plaintiff's house on the 28th of May?
I caught the bus from Cincinnati, Ohio to Kentucky.
How long a ride was that?
15 minutes.
Now, before you caught the bus, that 15 minutes, you had been drinking
Yes, ma'am.
a lot.
Yes, ma'am.
Why were you drinking so much?
Because I heard by a friend that he was cheating on me, so I went to go confront him.
And what did you find when you got to Miss Curry's house? You
He was
found
in the
Mr.
bed.
Hornsby there with? Who were you there with, sir? That's not a smile.
Well, I was with a friend of mine,
What's her name?
Kim.
Tell me what happened, Mr. Hornsby.
First of all, she came in, the door was open. She walked in, she caught me and Kim in the bed together, and she just started going crazy. She was trying to cut me, cut Kim, cut my mama furniture up, and just started cussing and acting a fool. And there wasn't even no cause for it, for real.
Did you tell Miss Orr before May 28th that you were going to see other people?
I told her that we can be friends, and if she want to be with me, that it's gonna be an open relationship. But right now, it's best that we just be friends.
Why did you tell her that after 3 years?
I met somebody that was more interesting.
Did you tell Miss Orr that you met somebody that was more interesting, or did you just tell her you wanted to be friends?
I just told her I wanted to be friends because me and Kim is friends.
Well, that was friendly if she found you in bed together. That was, I mean, you know, I have friends. Friends with Bird.
But my whole point is, if we friends, it shouldn't matter who I'm in bed with.
When you've had an intimate relationship with somebody for 3 years, do you think that she had other friends during the course of that 3 years?
I think she did.
Really?
No.
I think she did.
I'm not sure. In any event, it is your claim, Miss Curry, that Miss Orr is responsible for destroying your house.
Yes.
Miss Orr says it wasn't her, it was somebody else.
Yes.
Can I see the pictures? Ooh. Did you call the police, Mr. Hornsby?
No, because she has kids, and I didn't want to see her go to jail and have the boys messed up, so I begged my mom, because my mom wanted to call the police. As soon as she got home, she went ballistic, so I had to slow her down, stop her from calling the police.
Deontay is lying. I did not do nothing. And she lying too. I did not tear up the furniture. I mean, I admit that I went over there and I opened the door and went in and saw them. What was I supposed to do? Just let them continue doing what they was doing? He know he must lying.
Shh. Listen to me. Listen to me. You have any clue where you are?
Yes.
Did you hear anybody else cursing
No.
so far?
No.
She came home and found her house destroyed. She didn't open up a fresh mouth.
But I didn't do it. He know exactly who did it. He know that girl did it. And why she did it is because she knew that he had a girlfriend.
Listen to me. Tell me what happened when you got there. Tell me what happened.
They was having sex. I opened the door, and right before my eyes, they was having sex.
Okay, so what did you do?
I started going ballistic. I started throwing stuff, tearing up stuff. But I did not tear up her living room set, and I didn't tear up her bedroom set.
When you say you went ballistic, tell me what you did.
I admit I took a knife and some scissors and started trying to go at him with it, because what was I supposed to do? You see somebody you've been with for 3 years, you see them having sex with somebody else. Plus, he didn't tell me that he had another friend in the first place.
Miss Orr, what'd you take it out on her furniture for? Why don't you take it out on him?
I didn't tear up her furniture. I mean, I admit I started...
Shh. Listen to me. You just told me. I admit I had a knife, and I admit I had a scissors, and I admit I did something, but I didn't do all this, is what you're telling me. So what I'm saying to you is, why did you do anything to her furniture? You didn't find her in bed with anybody, right?
Right.
So you lost your temper, and you didn't have control over your temper because you were very...
angry.
And very...
upset.
And very...
drunk.
You have some bills for me?
Yes, I have. This is how much the furniture costs. And I had went through a bad divorce, and so I didn't have, my credit wasn't as good as it should be. So I had to put down $2,200 on that furniture before it was even delivered to my house.
29 years old?
Yes.
What do you do for a living?
I receive disability.
What's the nature of your disability?
I got a heart failure.
You got heart failure.
Yes.
What were you doing having sex in the middle of the afternoon on May 28th?
I ain't dead. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know, I mean, it's just sort of find it interesting. Everybody's got disability. This one gets drunk and travels across town to confront somebody, and she's on disability, right? You're 29 years old. You're making hay in the afternoon with somebody, right? I know you're not dead, but if you have enough energy, Mr. Hornsby, to have an afternoon delight, it would seem to me that you could do something like, you know, box candles. Anyway, all right. Listen, I'm perfectly silent. Shh. Your mother finds you cute?
I don't know. You think I'm cute?
No.
What? You have other children?
No.
This is it?
This is it.
You put all your eggs in one basket?
Yes.
Oi! I feel sorry for you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused.
Oh, you don't hit.
Smith versus Grody. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Ms. Smith, according to what I've read in your complaint, you and Mr. Grody were dating. You went to a Christmas party with him using your car. He drove home from the Christmas party. There was an accident, and he totaled your car. You were a passenger in the car. You want $5,000 so that you can buy a new car, and Mr. Grody says that it was, in fact, an accident. There was snow and ice on the road, and you should have had better insurance if the car was so valuable. That's your defense, right? Okay. Let's see. This Christmas party was on what date?
December 4th of 2004.
And how far from your home was the Christmas party?
Well, from my home, it was about an hour and a half. From where John lives, it was about 40 minutes.
And I see from your complaint that it was originally your intention to sleep over.
Yes.
And you had hotel reservations.
I do not know if there was hotel reservations. I did call to get a receipt for the hotel reservations. They said that...
You made arrangements to stay over.
I did not. John said that he was going to make all the arrangements.
Okay. And that was because...
It was his Christmas party.
And you were both going to be drinking.
Yes.
So that was a very wise thing, to make arrangements to stay over.
Okay, we didn't make arrangements before we got there. Our whole thing was actually that we were going home that night. When we got there was when everybody said, oh, we're all staying here, so do you want to stay? And originally she said she didn't want to stay.
And what about you?
We didn't have the money to stay.
Your Honor.
Just a second, he's talking. Go ahead.
So when we were actually, when we were there, and I said, all right, well then, you know, I wanted to stay there. She said we didn't have the money to stay there, so the plan was to drive home after that.
Who didn't have the money?
Both of us. Either of us.
So you didn't have the money either?
Well, I offered to pay. I mean, I had a credit card on me. I could have paid, but then she said she didn't want me to. So the plan was to go home.
Mr. Grody, were you drinking?
Yes, I was.
Was she drinking?
Yeah, she was.
Then you find the money to stay over.
Okay.
Good.
All right.
Now, what time did you leave the party?
I had to be around 12:30.
And what time had you arrived at the party?
That's a good question. I have no idea.
I believe it was around 8 o'clock.
What kind of alcohol were you consuming that day, Miss Smith?
I had some wine with dinner, and then in the bar area, I was drinking Captain and Diet Coke.
And what were you drinking, Mr. Grody?
Corbel and Diet Coke.
Corbel and Diet Coke. Is that a mix?
It is for me.
What, really? I mean, do you mix those two together, or you drink the Coke as a chaser?
No, I mix them together.
You mix them together?
Yep. I'm a brandy boy, sorry.
I guess it ain't a mimosa. I guess it's a Melissa.
Melissa, that's cute. It's cute. I wouldn't record it anywhere, but it's cute. How many of these bizarre drinks did you have that evening?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay. So you know that you were in no position to be driving home.
Before we left, I did stop drinking a while before we actually did leave.
How old are you, sir?
23.
How many hours into the drive home did you have this accident?
About 40 minutes. We were about a mile away from my house.
Is there a police report?
Yes, I have an
I'd like
accident
to see
report.
You're driving on a suspended license?
No.
Did you have a license?
Yes, I did.
It says that you were cited for driving too fast for the conditions, failure to notify police of an accident,
Correct.
and operating after a suspension.
Right. Actually, everything didn't go through. I actually paid the ticket that I had it suspended for before that, but it didn't go through in that township.
What was your license suspended for?
For not paying a ticket or not appearing in court for a speeding ticket.
Did you get a ticket for driving too fast for the conditions?
Yes, I did.
Okay. According to your complaint, Ms. Smith, he was angry that evening when you left.
Yes.
Is that right? Tell me about it.
Well, we were all just, socializing, and I went up to the bar to get a drink. And while I was waiting for my drink, a guy just randomly struck up a conversation with me. And we were just chatting while I was waiting, and apparently John here didn't like that. And he came up and he had made a remark to the individual that was talking to me. I couldn't understand what he was saying, but I could definitely, he was aggressive in his body language towards this guy. So I really didn't want to, push the issue. I just stayed where I was, thought that he would just, have like 5 minutes of cool down time and I would stay there. But then immediately he came back up to me and he just said, "We're leaving now." And
what time was that?
I believe it was around 12:15.
Okay, and did you leave?
Yes.
And you let him drive?
Well, I didn't, yes. Physically, I let him drive because I knew I could not physically stop him from driving. He had possession of my keys because I allowed him to drive us to the party. And so he was angry. I was very scared. He's much larger than I am.
Shouldn't have gotten into the car.
I understand. I shouldn't have gotten into the car.
The car's just steel, replaceable.
Understandable. I was clearly not thinking about
the best
thing. Yes, and also, even if it hadn't been drinking, I believe due to the scare factor, I just didn't want him to, of course, damage my property that I worked very hard. And I know that's a very irrational thought. My body is much more precious than a chunk of metal, like you said.
You're right. So what happened on the way home?
He just kept saying that, why were you talking to this guy? This was my party. You're my girlfriend. Being very possessive, being very jealous.
Okay. And that's some of the booze talking, too.
Possibly, yeah.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I freaked out and I said, "John, you need to slow down. You need to slow down. It's dark. We're on country roads and you've been drinking." But it was too late. And then the next thing I remember, he was saying, "Get out of the car now. Get out of the car now."
And later today.
Did you believe that the friendship would rekindle into a relationship?
No.
Mr. Marquez, don't insult my intelligence.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Audrey Smith says ex-boyfriend John Grody crashed her VW Jetta while driving drunk. Audrey also says John was irate when he got behind the wheel.
Keep going.
And so he was speeding because he was getting agitated. And I looked at the speedometer, and it was at 85 or 80 miles per hour. And I freaked out, and I said, "John, you need to slow down. You need to slow down. It's dark. We're on country roads, and you've been drinking." But it was too late. Then next thing I remember was him saying, "Oh." And then I blacked out momentarily. And then the next thing I remember, he was saying, "Get out of the car now. Get out of the car now." And I was very disoriented. And so he pulled me out through the driver's side door. And...
Okay.
I was going 85 about 10 miles before we actually crashed. I slowed down before we actually went around that curve because I go around that curve every day. I know that it's a bad curve and there's accidents there all the time.
What kind of car were you driving?
A 99 Volkswagen Jetta.
The car was totaled.
Yes.
Did you tell her that you were going to get her another car?
We had a car at work. I'm auto mechanic.
That's not my question.
Yes, I told her that I was going to buy her the car that we had at work and fix it for her, and it was more than equivalent to what she had. She said she didn't want that car. And after that, I'm not obligated, and I did not feel obligated to actually buy her a car. I thought it was just a nice gesture for me to do.
It's not a nice gesture, sir. You caused an accident.
Right.
Your lack of judgment, by virtue of the fact that you had been drinking all night, your lack of judgment and getting behind the wheel and being emotionally agitated with her that evening, which you clearly were. There's no question in my mind that that happened.
Right.
The police indicate that you were driving in excess of the speed limit. Your answer that you provided me says that you had this accident because of the road conditions, because it was icy, going in excess of the speed limits, which the police document.
It says too fast for conditions.
That's absolutely right. Too fast for the conditions. Too fast for the conditions, too fast for the hour of the evening. It was dark. Too fast for the fact that you had been drinking champagne and Coke a whole night. All of those things put together suggest to me that this was not an accident brought about by virtue of the fact that accidents sometimes happen. You were doing the wrong thing. And because you were doing the wrong thing, she doesn't have a car anymore.
Right.
So, take care of that. You have the Blue Book value on your car?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
I did give her my car, by the way.
Shouldn't have it anymore, does she?
Yeah.
Yes, I do have, it was signed over to me, but I also have the NADA value of that.
Just a second. Hold it, my dear. You accepted the car from him and you registered it?
Not at first. At first, he gave it to me. He said, you can borrow this car until I buy you the replacement for your totaled vehicle.
Okay.
I said, thank you. I told him, like, well, you know what? I'm going to take the car for now, and then I'm going to sue you for the rest.
Is that what she said to you?
Yep.
What kind of car did you give her?
95 Corsica, Chevy.
Are you telling me that you signed the title over to her?
Correct.
And she said to you, I'm going to take this car, but I'm going to sue you for the rest of the money that I think you owe me, and you said, okay, I'm going to sign over the car anyway?
Mm-hmm.
Why in the world would you do that?
Because otherwise, if I took the car back from her, how would she get anywhere?
What do you care?
I don't want to be a jerk. I understand that she didn't have a car because of me, and I didn't want to be a jerk. I wanted her to be able to get around.
You've been driving this car since April?
I've actually been driving it since the accident happened. And the reason why I needed it transferred over into my name is because I found out that he did not carry insurance on it. And I was driving the car, and I need insurance, and in order to carry insurance, it has to be registered in my name. So that's why I had to do that. Otherwise, again, I would be left with no car.
Okay. Why don't you have her do this? Why don't you have her sign this title back over to him?
Signature of the seller, I guess.
Okay. Can I borrow your pen? Thank you.
Good. Now he's got his car back. Go pick it up.
Okay.
It's yours. And now you'll pay her $5,000 so she can go out and buy a car. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000.
Thank you, Judge.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I thought it was, I guess, fair.
Of course I'm happy. I won. You know, yay.
I was just upset that she wasn't with the party.
He just kept saying, you know, this is my party, you're my guest, and you should be by my side the entire night.
That's pretty much all it was about.
Really have no, beef with him other than this.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Marquez versus Welfare, step forward, please.
23-year-old Joe Marquez is suing his ex-girlfriend, 22-year-old student Jamie Welfare, for selling his washer and dryer. Jamie claims the appliances were a Mother's Day gift from Joe.
How old are you, Mr. Marquez?
I'm 23. I'll be 24 in a couple days.
Before you moved in with Miss Welfare and her two children, where were you living?
I was living with my parents.
And when did you move in with Miss Welfare?
I moved in with her in mid-October of 2003.
And how long did you live there?
I lived there until the beginning of April.
And where were you working during that time?
The whole time I was working at Denny's restaurant.
Part-time?
Part-time, yes. I also coach football at the local elementary school.
What was your financial arrangement when you were living with Miss Welfare?
We paid half. I paid $300, she paid $300.
For rent?
For rent, correct.
Is that right?
That's correct.
What about the rest of the expenses?
We usually split those down the middle as well.
And what were you doing, Miss Welfare?
I also had 2 jobs. I was working at 2 separate restaurants.
Okay. This is what the complaint is about. The complaint says that while you were living there, you purchased a washer and dryer. When you moved out in April of 2004, you told Miss Welfare that she could keep them for a while because you had no place to take them because you were moving back with your parents. A year later, you finally get your own place. You let her know you want your washer and dryer back, and she says, forget it.
Actually, I did have a place to put them. I have a receipt for my storage space, which I purchased in April 17th of 2004 as well, which was actually 5 days after I moved everything out of the apartment.
All right, so you didn't want to put it in your storage space because...
Well, she has 2 children, and we've been to the laundromat together, and it takes quite a long time to do laundry. And since my parents already had a washer and dryer, I had no need for them at that time. And I had just purchased them in March of that year, which had only been about a month. So I figured I might as well get some use out of them by leaving them at her apartment.
That's somewhat correct, but not completely correct.
23-year-old Joe Marquez is suing his ex-girlfriend, 22-year-old student Jamie Welfare, for selling his washer and dryer. Jamie claims the appliances were a Mother's Day gift from Joe.
Well, let me hear what your version of the events were.
When he bought those for me, it was an early Mother's Day gift. I was the one doing all the laundry. He never even did his own laundry. I was doing my laundry, his laundry, and both of my children's laundry. And between the 2 jobs and being at the laundromat all the time, it was a lot of time away, and so we had been discussing, you know, him buying a washer and dryer for me, and he was looking online and said, hey, come and pick the one you want. And so I picked the one I want. He gave them to me. When he moved out, I was sleeping when he moved out. You know, our relationship had gotten kind of rocky. There was never any discussion about me giving them back, ever.
When, for the first time, did you contact her with regard to retrieving these 2 items?
Your Honor, as she said, I moved out at the very beginning of April of 2004. We didn't talk for 2 weeks afterwards. After that, we, began phone conversations, and actually on May 5th of 2004, she came over to my house, my parents' house, for a little Cinco de Mayo get-together. In May of 2004, I gave Miss Welfare $100 because she was having a rough time making it on her own in the apartment, and I have here a check for utilities / other stuff I gave to Miss Welfare for $100 to help her out.
Can you answer my question?
Sure.
You remember what my question was?
Yes, I do. Have we ever talked about it? About the washer and dryer?
When, for the first time, did you ask for it back?
I first asked for it back when I found out I was moving out with my current girlfriend, which was in March of 2005.
Okay, so between April of 2004 and March 2005, you had absolutely no discussion with her about this washer and dryer.
That is incorrect. When I gave her that check, which was dated May 20th of 2004, we had discussed it. She actually wanted to purchase the washer and dryer fully. She wanted to give me payments per month. And I told her that since we were becoming good friends, I did not want the only conversation to be between us about the washer and dryer.
At that time, Mr. Marquez, did you believe that the friendship would rekindle into a relationship?
No. Actually, when we first broke up, I did...
Mr. Marquez, don't insult my intelligence.
Sorry, Your Honor.
You don't go from being lovers to friends without somebody hoping for a little bit more.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So during that time, and during the time, according to you, she said, why don't you let me make payments on it? You said, no.
Correct.
And now you have a new girlfriend.
Yes, I do.
You moving into an apartment together?
We have currently moved into an apartment as of the 9th of April.
And I assume it doesn't have a washer and dryer.
Actually, it does. After this little skirmish between me and my ex-girlfriend, my current girlfriend went out and purchased one, hoping it would make me feel a little bit better.
Did it?
I was very, very pleased that she would show that much friendship towards me. But I wasn't very angry about the washer and dryer. I was angry at the fact that she took me for granted that I was being nice and letting her borrow the washer and dryer when I could have just put them in my storage.
Get over it. There is something that doesn't ring true, sir, about your story that you told her more than a year ago, that I'm letting you use this piece of equipment that breaks down, that once it's used, it becomes less functional. I'm going to let you use that for as long as it takes. And it just so happens that the time that you want it back is when you're moving in with a new girlfriend. By the way, whose washer and dryer is the new one that was purchased?
It is hers.
I just want her to hear that.
Yes, I've told her that many times.
Very good. And you know whose this is?
Yes.
Hers. Thank you. That's all. Have a happy life.
Parties are excused. The next limousine services versus Rory. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, folks.
What is your name, sir?
Genaro Araujo.
Slower.
Genaro Araujo.
Spell it.
A-R-A-U-J-O.
Mr. Araujo.
There you go.
Close enough. Are you the owner of A-Plus Limousine?
I'm part owner, ma'am.
How long have you been in business?
5 years.
How many limousines do you have?
3.
Do you drive as well?
Yes.
In the 5 years that you've had your business, sir, how many times have you sued clients?
This is first time.
Mr. Rory leased one of your cars for an evening. He wanted to celebrate his...
birthday.
A national holiday. What national holiday was it, Mr. Rory?
It was my 35th.
You look older. And who are you celebrating with, sir?
Friends, family.
How many friends and how many family?
About 40 or so.
And how many people did you put in this limousine?
About 20 at a time.
What do you mean 20 at a time?
They picked up from one location, dropped us off, went back, picked up another group.
Were you driving that night?
Yes, I was, Your Honor.
Tell me what kind of damage you allege that they caused your vehicle.
They used this fun streamer can, and it was all over the car. Normally, it's not a problem to get off the carpets, the door paneling, and that such things, but on vinyl, it adheres to it and it crusts up and it doesn't come off.
Well, what do you mean normally it's not a problem? I don't understand that, sir.
Off of carpeting and door panels, you just peel it right off. It comes right off like hair. But on the vinyl itself, it actually sticks to it and it crusts up and it doesn't come off. And we needed to get it detailed, and it took about 5 hours of cleaning to finally get most of it off. But it still left stains. I have some pictures to show if you...
Now, you were driving that night.
Yes, I was.
By the way, I read your answer. You don't deny that you bought this stuff and you used it in the car.
Yes.
Could you explain to me, just for my own edification, why would a 35-year-old man do that?
It's fun, and if you had silly string shot at you, it's kind of exciting, I guess, so it made it fun.
I have a couple of my sons visiting me today, you know, and they're about your age. One of them's a couple of years older, but we won't go there. And I cannot imagine them renting a limousine with their friends and using silly string. Mr. Rory, I mean, I can imagine them going from one place to another, I can imagine them having some beers in the back of a car, but I can't imagine them using silly string, this stuff. I mean, my grandchildren use that.
We like to have fun.
If you consider that fun. So where were you shooting it?
Oh, at each other, you know, typically.
Were you making a big mess?
There was a mess when it was over, yes.
Well, who was supposed to clean up that mess?
Well, Gennaro?
Oh, Mr. Rory, no, I'm being serious with you, sir. You commissioned A1 Limousine to take you and friends from one place to another. Where did it say that they provided domestic services for you to clean up after your crap?
Well, we've rented limos
Show me.
Many times.
Show me.
We've never cleaned up after ourselves on any cars we've ever rented. That's why we pay $800 to rent a car.
Your Honor, if I may?
Yes.
Normally, we clean up beer bottles, bottle caps, empty cans, napkins. That kind of stuff is not a problem. We never have the client clean up after himself. That's normal.
Well, that's nice of you, because they're drinking a beer, they leave it in the car.
Mm-hmm.
I assume that your limousine has places for drinks.
Yes.
Because that's what people do in limousines.
Yes.
You know, they have a drink. That's why they hire a limousine sometimes, so that they can get from one place to another drunk. And they're not driving. Well, that's what people do. They want to act like idiots, so they hire somebody else to drive so that they can be safe. That's reasonable. What I don't understand, Mr. Rory, is this stuff and being a real pig and expecting somebody else to clean up after you.
Well, we've rented limos in the past. We've used it in the past. We've never had anybody charge us any cleaning fee, certainly not the amount he's trying to charge, $350 for somebody to clean it. I had asked for pictures of, you know, the stuff that he couldn't get cleaned off several times.
Do you have those?
I actually took pictures before the cleanup.
Well, let me see what it looked like.
These are some pictures before. After that, I did inform Mr. Ruri that he was more than welcome to come by before Thursday. This happened on Saturday night, and Thursday we had another service booked already. So I emailed him and told him that he was more than welcome to come by and look at it for himself before it was cleaned, but I really didn't have the time to be running back and forth taking pictures for his benefit.
Is that right, Mr. Ruri?
I emailed him requesting pictures after he sent me those pictures of the stuff that didn't get cleaned up. I asked to come see the limo as well.
Do you have a bill for the detailing service?
Yes, I do, ma'am.
I'd like to see it. Who detailed for you?
It's a car wash in San Diego.
Is this a Hummer?
It's a Hummer limousine, yes, ma'am.
H2 limousine.
Yes.
Interior detailed, foreign compound removal, $345.
On Wednesday the 9th, he said that I could come over by Thursday to come take a look at the car.
Yes.
He emailed me again on Wednesday night saying that he'd got the car cleaned, and he booked it again, so I couldn't come see it because it was already clean. So, to me...
I have to take his word for it that it was a mess.
Oh, I'm sure it was a mess, but it was something that just back and dried up. We had the stuff all over our car, inside our house. I mean, it's like paper. It doesn't stain.
Your Honor, the can does say, do not spray on vinyl as it will leave a stain on certain types of vinyl.
My question to you, sir, is you saw them using this.
No, I did not, ma'am.
You didn't?
No, there's a partition between the driver and the cab in the back. And normally what will happen is when I pick someone up and I...
No, don't tell me what normally. So you're telling me you didn't see this disaster until they left the cab?
Until they were exiting the vehicle.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What did you find when you took apart the radio?
There was silly string melted onto the laser.
Well, that's a mystery. I mean...
You think that I'm smart enough to unravel this mystery?
And later today...
So not only did you sell the car to a minor, you sold it and took advantage of him.
Well, I made a lot of repairs and
I don't care whether you made a lot of repairs or whether you outfitted the car for the Queen of England.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Limo company owner Genaro Araujo says former client Darren Ruri ruined the interior of his limo with silly string.
Who was this?
That is the person that installed the new stereo, because also, I'm not sure how, but silly string got inside the stereo. We believe it was either on a CD that they loaded and it damaged the stereo also, so that's part of what we're suing for also. We had to replace it. He's the gentleman, works for Big Boy Car Audio in San Diego, and he's the one that installed this new stereo.
Tell me your name, sir.
David Martinez.
Mr. Martinez, are you related to the plaintiff in any way?
No, I am not.
Have you had business dealings with him before?
Yes, I have.
How many times have you done jobs for the plaintiff?
Just 2 times.
Okay, and the second time had to do with this audio system?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about what you found.
I pulled the deck out, which is the radio. It was...
Why did you bring the car in to check out the radio?
Because the radio part works on it, the AM/FM radio part, but when you try and load a CD, it spits it back out.
Okay, so it wasn't working?
It wasn't working properly, no.
Had it been working prior to Mr. Ruri and company occupying the Hummer?
Yes, actually, when they got on, his girlfriend Bambi brought along some CDs, and I showed her how to use it.
Is that right, Bambi?
Yes.
And it worked fine?
It worked fine.
Is that your real name?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, and at the end of the night, when I picked up the final group that was going to be leaving, Bambi and Darren were in the group, and I was holding their CDs for them so they wouldn't get lost. So she asked for them back. When I gave it to her, she went in the back and she told me there was a problem. And I thought she just didn't know how to use it, so I went back to show her again, and that's when I noticed you put it in, it spit it back out, put it in, throw it back out, and it wouldn't play properly.
Got it. Is that right, Bambi?
That's right.
Good. So far, she's a wonderful witness for you. What did you find when you took apart the radio?
There was silly string melted onto the laser, so it wasn't reading.
Darren, how do you think that happened?
Well, that's a mystery. I mean...
Just a second. That's a mystery. You think that I'm smart enough to unravel this mystery?
You probably are, but the CD player was working fine when we got out of the car, we went into a club, we gave him the CD so nobody would use it or anything.
Listen to me. Bambi said it wasn't working.
It was working
prior
to it.
Prior.
And then we got out of the club, we get the CDs back, and they don't
Listen to
load.
me, Darren.
Sure.
I want you to try to put on your thinking cap, Darren. You and Bambi got into the car and she put in the CDs, and they worked just fine. At the end of the evening, this is the fact, the CD wasn't working. Right, Bambi?
When we got back into the car.
It wasn't working.
We went to put a CD back in there.
At the end of the evening,
Right.
it wasn't working.
Right.
Mr.
Martinez
says that what he found in the CD changer was
silly string.
Silly string. Figure that out, Darren.
We didn't have silly string on our CDs.
No,
to
but
me,
maybe somebody
it's convenient
watched.
excuse, but I don't think so.
Listen to me. Everybody was drinking. Looks to me as if a lot of people were drinking. Maybe somebody thought it'd be funny to put silly string in the stereo system. Do you have something you want me to look at, Darren? You got a lot of...
No, I have a lot of photographs of our mess, but...
Of your what?
Of our mess in the car that he had sent us, but...
Oh,
but he never showed me any of the silly string that was inside the stereo. So, no.
I have to believe Mr. Martinez. Yeah. Darren, I want you to look at Mr. Martinez. Do you think Mr. Martinez is lying about what he found in the stereo?
I don't know.
Darren.
Probably.
Darren, and you were 3 sheets to the wind, and probably so was Miss Bambi. How much did you charge him for fixing the stereo?
I charged him $45 to remove the stereo and install another one because it couldn't be repaired. We had to replace the laser, and it's going to cost more than what the stereo costed.
So how much was it?
We actually tried to get the same stereo over the internet, but it's a discontinued model, so we ended up buying a different one that cost $168.95 plus the installation fee.
Well, that's all together, that's $603. That's with the detailing and his bill and the bill for the new stereo. So explain to me, sir, why you're suing for $1,158.
Because even after it was cleaned off, it did leave a stain like the can says it would. I have some pictures of that, if you'd like to see them. And
I didn't think you had pictures of that, the stain.
I did.
Oh, let me see.
Actually, there's a few pictures. Some of these might be repeats, but it didn't come off completely. It left residue. And the only way to fix that is to have it upholstered again, and I have an estimate for that also.
Oh. That's a mess that you made, sir. Did you take a look?
No, he wouldn't give me those pictures.
Well, I'm going to give you the picture, sir. Here you go.
And if you actually total up the... Sorry, ma'am.
If you actually total up, it's more than what you're suing for.
Correct.
You see, Darren, look at me, Darren, you're not a bad guy. You know, sometimes I have bad guys, and sometimes I have just guys that are not bad, but just limited. You're not one of the bad guys.
Limo company owner Genaro Araujo says former client Darren Rury ruined the interior of his limo with silly string.
I'm giving you as a given that you and your guests caused this damage to the vinyl, that you and your guests caused another CD changer to have to be installed, that you and your guests caused the car to have to be detailed after you finished with your night of partying. I want you to accept that as a given. Whose responsibility do you think it is?
Well, I hate to say it's mine, but if I have to.
See, I knew you weren't a bad guy. Got a nice smile. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,100. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
What is our excuse? You may step out.
He approached me saying that he had my credit card and he was going to charge me $350, so that got my attention.
I was actually amazed at how dirty it actually was. I never expected to see something like that.
People were celebrating and shot the strings, and then from there we went into the bar.
I'm just glad that Judge Judy saw it our way.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Carsten Lutka versus Green. Step forward.
Tina Karsten and her son, 16-year-old Keith Lutker, are suing 22-year-old Adam Green for a refund on a 1988 Honda CRX. Tina says Adam sold the car to her minor son without her permission.
Keith, is that your mom?
Yes, this is.
You wanted a car. You saw a car that Mr. Green was selling?
Yes, ma'am.
And despite the fact that you were told, "No, don't buy the car," till we see it. You got the money. Where did you get the money from?
I previously had the money from a car that I was going to buy down in Pacific, Missouri, but the guy was a no-show, so I kept the money in my drawer in case he called me back.
When had you taken the money out?
Around February 20th.
And where did you take the money from? Your savings account?
Yes, ma'am.
And then you went over to Mr. Green. How much money did you ultimately give him for the car?
$2,400.
What kind of car was it, Mr. Green?
It was a '88 Honda CRX.
How long have you had the car?
Probably about 5 years.
Who did you buy it from?
Private owner.
When you bought the car, who did you go with to buy the car?
My parents.
And you went with your parents because?
I was 16 or 17 at the time. I couldn't remember exactly.
And so you had to be with your parents?
Correct.
Right. And do you know why that is, Mr. Green?
Because I was a minor.
Right. And do you know what he is?
A minor.
So when he told you he wanted his money back because his parents hit the roof, that he took his $2,400 and gave it to you, what did you say?
I said I couldn't refund it. I sold him the car as is without a refund.
Don't you understand what you just said to me? You just said to me that you understood that when you bought this car 5 years ago, you were 16 or 17, you had to go with your parents because you were a minor, because you couldn't enter into a contract. He's 16 years old. You have no defense to this case, sir.
Well.
Well is not an answer. How much did you pay for the car 5 years ago?
$5,500.
Well, getting $2,400 is a pretty good return on your money after you used the car for 5 years. What's the book value of the car?
Book value was
very easy to figure out, sir. What's the book value of the car?
probably around $1,100.
So not only did you sell the car to a minor, you sold it and took advantage of him.
Well, I made a lot of repairs and
I don't care whether you made a
modifications.
lot of repairs or whether you outfitted the car for the Queen of England. If the book value of the car is $1,100 and you found a 16-year-old sucker to buy it for $2,400, you got a lot of nerve.
He made me that offer, ma'am.
You got a lot of nerve, sir. You are a little amoral. It means that while you are aware of the fact that you couldn't enter into a contract, you forced them to bring a lawsuit against you to get their money back. What do you do for a living?
I'm a salesman
For whom?
for a retail electronics store,
Where?
St. Louis, Missouri.
Do you tell people the truth when you're selling them a product?
Yes, I do.
Did you tell him the truth about this car?
I told him every problem that I had with
Did
it.
you tell him that the book value of the car was $1,100?
No, ma'am.
If a customer came into your store and said, I want to buy that television set, and I really like that television set, and I'm going to give you $500 for it, and the television set sells for $250, would you sell it to them for $500?
No, ma'am.
Why not? Because it's dishonest. Dishonest. You would be taking advantage of somebody who wasn't either wrapped too tight or who was a minor, who didn't know their way around. You don't want to grow up to be a dishonest person, do you, Mr. Green?
No, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,400.
Campbell.
Thank you, Bertie.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
All right, Miss Fennell, this is your old boyfriend.
Correct.
This is, according to your complaint, probably Carlos.
That's Carlos, correct.
New boyfriend.
Old boyfriend also.
Old boyfriend.
Correct.
You don't stand still too long. Who is this?
This is my fiance, Tiffany.
She's just here for moral support?
Mm-hmm.
Because she brought the old boyfriend, you brought the Tiffany.
Right.
Got it. Ms. Fennell, according to your complaint, this gentleman, with whom you had a relationship for a while, became annoyed when he found out that you were with Carlos, and he vandalized your car. Mr. Campbell says he was, in fact, annoyed, but he didn't do any damage to your car. When were you and Mr. Campbell involved in a relationship?
We started, actually, I met him June of 2003.
When did you and Mr. Campbell terminate your relationship?
November of 2003.
And when did this incident happen with your car?
In March of 2004.
Well, tell me what happened in March of 2004.
Carlos had come to visit me at Ohio University.
Carlos?
Carlos had come to visit
How long had you been dating Carlos?
I started dating him in December of 2003, very soon after ending the relationship with Clifton. So he had come to visit me at the university, and we just come in from a movie. It may have been about 1:30 in the morning, This is March 13th. I hear this banging on my door. And so, you know, it was kind of unusual.
Were you in a dorm room?
Yes, I am in a dorm room, or I was then. And so it's 2 o'clock in the morning, so, you know, I'm not expecting anybody. So I go to the peephole and I see that it's him. Like, we've had history in our relationships of just different violence and him threatening me and stuff like that. And so prior to him coming, he had been trying to call me, and I wasn't answering the phone. So he had been leaving messages on my voicemail just threatening.
I mean, he just decided to come out of the blue? He hadn't been in touch with him, really? Since November of 2003, all of a sudden in March of 2004, he shows up?
We've been in contact sporadically, not very much. He was just calling. We kept in contact via email.
But you hadn't been dating?
We hadn't been dating.
Anyway, he comes, it's 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, bangs at the door. You don't answer the door. What happens next?
Carlos is there. Carlos wants to answer the door, and he and Cliff had just a few words. It wasn't a big episode like I thought it would be. And afterwards, he walked.
Did you say anything to Mr. Campbell?
No, I didn't.
Okay. What happened next?
Once he left the dorm room, I went to my dorm window because I know what he's capable of. And so when I looked out the window, I saw him kicking my car and walking away.
Did you call the police?
I did.
That same day?
That same evening.
Do you have a police report?
I do.
I see it, please.
There's some pictures.
What kind of sneakers are you wearing?
Lugs.
Lugs?
Yes.
Is that who makes them, Lugs?
Yes.
Is that what you usually wear?
Yes.
Huh. All right, Mr. Campbell, let me hear what you have to say, sir.
For one, we were not just boyfriend, girlfriend. That was my fiance. We had got engaged on March 9th.
Tell me about that, Mr. Campbell.
Well, basically, I had came to Ohio University on March 9th, I remember, because that's my little brother's birthday. I had proposed to Tamar. She had said yes.
Did you give her a ring?
Yes.
Does she still have the ring, or did you take it back?
No, I didn't take it back. I'm not sure if she still has it or not.
What kind of ring did you buy her?
Gold ring with, like, I don't know how many carats, diamonds in it.
How much did you pay for it?
It was like $1,700.
And you didn't ask for it back?
No.
Did he give you a ring?
He gave me a ring, but...
Remember when?
I don't believe it was March 9th. I think it was the week before then, the last week in February. He did give me a ring.
So that you were still not only communicating with Mr. Campbell on the internet by email, but just a few weeks before, you had actually seen him.
We weren't seeing each other.
You had actually seen him, I said.
I had seen him, yes.
How long did you stay when you came to visit her, Mr. Campbell?
I had spent the night with her March 9th, and I left on March 10th.
So when you came back on March 13th, because she wasn't answering her phone, and
Well, she did answer the phone.
Oh, she did?
One time.
And what did she say?
I heard a guy in the back, which I presume was probably whatever his name is.
Carlos.
Carlos. She just wasn't acting herself. Normally, she's real uppity and giddy when we're talking on the phone. And it sounded like she was trying to hide something and was rushing me off the phone.
So you became suspicious. And you got in the car, and how long a drive is it to the school?
It's about 3.5 to 4 hours.
And while you were driving, did you try to call her again?
Yes.
How many times?
Probably 4 or 5.
So by the time you got there, you were really pretty annoyed.
I was...
Just so far you've been honest with me. Do you understand?
Yeah, I understand.
So far you've been together, and you've been honest.
Right.
Right?
Right.
That doesn't mean you're going to get away with denting her car. I want you to trust me on this, Mr. Campbell. But I like the fact that you've been honest. So I'm not going to stomp on your head. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Very good. Now, second ex-boyfriend answers the door, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
What do you do?
First, I'm just dumbfounded. It's like, this is my fiance, and this dude is answering the door trying to look like he was all tough or something.
So what do you think was going on there? You think he was delivering a vacuum cleaner?
Not at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I know you're a telemarketer, but only I get the last word. You know the people that say, goodbye, don't call me again? That's me.
And later today...
Listen to me. You cannot unilaterally modify a contract. You know what that means? No.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tamara Fennell claims ex-fiancé Clifton Campbell kicked her car after discovering she had a new boyfriend. Clifton is denying the charge.
So what did you do?
Well, basically, me and him had a few words, and then I was just like, F it, y'all can have each other, and I left.
But when you left, you kicked her car.
No, I didn't.
Well, maybe you were just so angry you don't remember, Mr.
No,
Campbell.
maybe he was also angry.
He was.
That was her
No.
boyfriend.
No. You know why, sir? Because the two of them called the police together immediately after you left. And the police went downstairs and looked at her car, which was very dirty. But the one thing that they did find were fresh sneaker prints on the car. Reeboks and dents where the footprint went into the door. Now, quite frankly, I can understand you being really annoyed. She clearly doesn't make up her mind well, but she's entitled to do that. She's entitled to play the field if she wants to. Not entitled to going around breaking people's hearts. That's really unkind.
I would like to explain if I can.
Go ahead.
Okay. One thing that he did say was that was my boyfriend, and Cliff was aware that Carlos and I were dating.
She told me it was some dumb dude she get money from. That's all she told me about
Oh,
him.
no, I never
Just a
said
second.
that.
Okay. So?
When we broke up, it was on these crazy terms. I had been through just a lot of things with him, as far as him threatening my life, different situations where he held me at knife point, just a lot of violent situations where I felt like if I was going to ever have a situation that was going to be calm with Cliff, I pretty much had to tell him what he wanted to hear.
She's lying.
She's lying, Mr. Campbell. She's lying because she didn't tell me all of this stuff when it was her turn. And she says a lot of things in here, that she witnessed you stab somebody during spring break. She witnessed you burn down somebody's home, which is why she knew that you were violent and she wasn't going to subject herself to that. She didn't play it nicely.
I don't think I would be out right now if I stabbed somebody and burned down their home.
Listen to me. Mr. Campbell, I think that you were pretty fortunate that you have a new fiancé. You get along pretty well together?
We get along great.
What do you do for a living, sir?
Right now, telemarketing.
Do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
You planning on getting married?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, very good. Miss Fennell, what year car do you have?
A 94.
1994 what?
Honda Accord EX.
And did you get an estimate on taking out the dents?
I did.
Let me take a look at the picture. I see a dent near a door. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you can pull out the dents in that car. The paint isn't off.
The paint's off.
Car's 10 years old. Is it just off in that spot?
Excuse me, Judge.
It's only in that spot.
She told me one night around Christmas that she had got drunk and got in a wreck and dented her car up.
Listen to me. The police noted the damage on March 13th, sir. I'm not believing her. I'm saying the police noted the damage.
I understand that.
Oh,
but if
good.
she was messing with two different guys at the time, how do I know it was in the third or fourth that got off and did that
Just
to
a
her
second.
car?
You don't have to. Only I have to know, Mr. Campbell. And there may have been somebody else that gave her car a good clop. But so did you, on your way out.
No, I didn't.
I'm telling you that I believe that you did. You had the opportunity, you
didn't.
had the inclination, and you certainly, Mr. Campbell, had the motive.
But I didn't.
Don't say it again. There's only one person who gets the last word, and that's me. Do you understand? Only me. I know you're a telemarketer, but only I get the last word. You know the people that say, goodbye, don't call me again? That's me.
Tamara Fennell claims ex-fiancé Clifton Campbell kicked her car after discovering she had a new boyfriend. Clifton is denying the charge.
You get a ding doctor to pull out the dings that he did on your now almost 12-year-old car. Not for $1,700, which is more than the car is worth, but for $500. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. That's all. Don't play with people's hearts, Miss Fennell. Sometimes you're going to get burned. This time it was just your car. Next time it may be another part of you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I believe it was when she heard that I was engaged to a new female. She just went on ahead and decided to try her best to do something to get back at me.
Oh, no. He wasn't even with anybody else at that time. Like he said, he had just proposed to me. So No, I wasn't upset at all.
I wouldn't mind getting the ring back. That's a lot of money.
He told me to pawn it. It definitely wasn't a $1,700 ring. I think it was something that he might have stole from his grandmother's jewelry box.
I believe she played games to the fullest.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lampa versus Fout. Step forward.
23-year-old Mindy Lampa is suing her former friend, 23-year-old Gary Fout, for an unpaid loan. Mindy claims Gary promised to repay the loan with his tax refund, but never did.
Miss Lampa, Mr. Fout was a friend of yours, and according to what I've read, you've known him for about 4 years.
Correct.
Are you an accountant by trade?
No.
But you do your own income tax and you do income tax for other people?
Correct.
This past year, Mr. Fout asked you to do his taxes, according to your complaint.
Correct.
And you agreed for a small fee.
Right.
So far, are we correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were entitled to a refund.
Yes, ma'am.
Of how much, sir?
$28.60 or something like that.
Is that right?
$28.81.
And you wanted that refund right away.
Yeah.
And what did you tell him, Miss Lampa?
I told him that if he agreed to give me the refund, give me the money back once the refund was posted, that I would give him the loan as long as he agreed to it. He said he would, so I wrote him the check.
So far, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you do his taxes?
February 13th, the week of the February 13th.
And when did you give him the check?
I wrote him the check on February 16th.
And when did you cash the check, Mr. Fout?
It was deposited maybe this next day.
Yeah. You did get the refund back.
Yes, ma'am.
And you didn't give her the money.
No.
And the reason that you didn't give her the money is because, A, you say that she told your mother, and she shouldn't have done that.
Correct.
And B, she doesn't need the money anyway. Shh. Please.
That wasn't the case, no.
Well, that's what you say in your answer.
Well, the reason was she had started calling me about a week.
Just a second. I just want to make sure I had both of your reasons, both of your defenses.
Okay.
One, you say that the plaintiff told your mother.
Correct.
And the second thing was, I don't know why she is so hard up for this money. She lives expense-free with my father-in-law.
Correct.
So, my first question is, how do you know this idiot?
He used to be a co-worker with me.
Okay. You got 10 seconds to explain to me why she isn't entitled to this judgment.
She called me about a week after she gave me the check, saying, I want the money, I want the money. I hadn't had the refund yet.
When did you get the refund?
It was about...
That's very easy to figure out, sir.
It was 7 or 8 weeks afterwards, I believe.
I do have a copy of the
I'd like
status.
to see it.
It was posted about 6 weeks after.
March 11th. So, it's February 17th. So it was less than a month later that you got the check. I'm speaking.
Sorry.
It was less than a month later.
Okay.
Right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, when you got the check, March 11th, why didn't you give her the money?
She had called me about a week after she gave me the check, her check, saying, I need it. Told her it hadn't deposited yet. She said she was going to call my mother and tell her to give it to her, and then I would pay her back. I told her, I said, if you call my mother, I'm not paying you, period. I don't want my mother involved. This is between me and you. In the story. If you call her, I'm not paying.
You can't make... Listen to me. You cannot unilaterally modify a contract. You know what that means? No. Didn't think you did. You can't say to her, if you do thus and such, I'm not going to pay you back unless she agrees to it.
She did agree.
Now, she agreed.
Yes,
Just a second. Are you telling me, Mr. Fout, that when you said to her, if you call my mother, I'm not going to pay you back, she said to you, fine. If I call your mother, you won't have to pay me back? Is that what you're telling me?
Not in that many words. What she said was, that's fine, then I will not call her.
I never said that.
She did, created problems with me and my mother.
That's too bad.
Well, the problem was,
Your Honor, I waited a week.
You know, in her world, her adopted father is her everything, and he jumps when she tells her to. My mother and me don't do that, and I did not want her to cause problems between me and my mother, which she did, when I only see my mother maybe every 2 weeks. Cause problems because she had to run like a child and tell her.
Mr. Fout, there's only one child in this room. Unfortunately, I have a sense that this young lady, who's your girlfriend, right?
Wife.
Wife. Oy.
After 6 months of dating.
Relax.
Excuse you.
You've been with how
She's,
many people in my life?
don't speak to her.
Maybe.
You want to speak to her? You speak to her outside when
Yes,
you're
ma'am.
handing her your
Yeah.
check. But in here, you only talk to me.
Yes, ma'am.
One child in here, and that's a child that doesn't pay their debts. Somebody who is a friend of yours.
Ex.
A friend of yours.
We weren't friends at the time.
Listen to me, Mr. Fout.
Yes, ma'am.
If you weren't friendly with her at the time, why do you think a stranger would say to you, you want your money now so that you can have instant gratification? I'll give you the money, interest-free, because I have so much money, it's not going to make any difference to me. Do you know anybody like that?
No.
No, of course not. I mean, did you actually think you were going to come here today and walk away unscathed?
Well, no.
You acted like a child.
No, the problem
She chose to marry a child. That's her problem.
No,
when
but-
you owe somebody money, when you make a contract, you pay your bills, Mr. Fout.
And then we
Judgment for
made-
the plaintiff in the amount of $2,881.
Case number 153 on the calendar in the matter of Avaton versus Zuniga. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Ms. Avaton, according to your complaint, you dated the defendant for about 6 months.
Yes.
You knew at the time that he was married.
Did not know.
Well,
I first
I mean, I read your complaint. So your complaint says that with regard to the cell phone that you
that's
claim that
after
you
the
got
fact.
that you got for him.
Yeah.
The reason that you got it, put your hand down. The reason you say you got him the cell phone was because he told you that his wife was checking on the number.
Right. There's a preface to it. I started working at the animal hospital that we were at probably in July.
Just a second. I'm going to finish my statement, then
Okay,
I'll get back
sorry.
to you. In any event, he was married, you were dating him, and you claimed that you made him a series of loans. In addition, you claim that he asked you to get him a cell phone, you got him a cell phone, he ran up a bill, and he owes you the bill. Mr. Zuniga says that you got him the cell phone because you were calling him 20 times a day, and you were running up his telephone bill, that anything that you did for him was voluntary. There was no agreement to pay you back any of the money that you gave him. And in addition, he's counterclaiming because he says that since he and you were no longer an item, that you've been acting like a nutty lady and seriously harassing him, and he can prove it.
Right.
Okay. So, when did you first start dating the defendant?
I would say probably like the last week in July, maybe.
When did you find out that he was married?
After I started dating him.
Just a second. So, how much after? A week, 2 weeks, a month?
Probably a week or two, I would say.
Okay. But you didn't break off the relationship.
Well, I didn't break off the relationship with him because, number one, he told me that he and his wife were at dire straits, that they would be separating, and he also told me that they weren't getting along.
Well, that doesn't help much. You understood he was still married, still living with his wife.
Right.
Okay. Now, let's start out with the cell phone.
The cell phone bills I have here, first of all, I didn't get him the cell phone bill because I was calling him constantly. I got him the cell phone bill because when
You got him the cell phone?
Yeah, cell phone. The time he claims I was calling him constantly, he didn't want my number showing up on his cell phone bill. So he said, should we get another cell phone? I said, I'll put another one on my account for you. And I told him, I said, but you're going to have to pay. I said, there's no reason for me to go ahead and.
Is that what happened, Mr. Zuniga?
No, that's not what happened at all. I have phone bills here from my phone company that'll
For your
show
cell
you.
phone?
Right. That'll show you all the times that she did call, and they were all calls within a minute to 2 minutes apart.
But you took a cell phone from her.
Yes.
Tell me why.
Because I told her, once I got my first phone bill, I told her that there were too many phone calls, that this all had to stop. This whole relationship had to stop because of all these phone calls. She didn't agree with it. So then she offered to get me a cell phone bill. She said she was going to buy me one, and then she proceeded to take her boyfriend's cell phone and give it to me.
Why in the world, within the very short time of starting to have a relationship with her, if you saw that she was behaving in an inappropriate way by calling you that number of times in a 1 or 2 day period, why did you continue the relationship?
Because I thought that maybe she would change if, I would tell her that this was becoming a nuisance. Maybe she would change it a little bit. Maybe she would stop the phone calls.
Now, where did you tell your wife you were when you were with her?
Actually, me and my wife were separated for a while.
But
That's
not
when
all the time, Mr. Zuniga. So when you weren't separated, where did you tell your wife you were?
I would just leave. I wouldn't tell her anything. Sometimes I would tell her I was with friends, but the majority of the time I would just walk out the house.
Oh, okay. Now, you took money from her.
The only money that I took from her was the money that she used to pay my cell phone bill, which was this one.
How much money did you take?
She made a payment of $100.
All right, so what other monies, Ms. Aviton, do you claim you gave him?
Well, I have here from August 2004, on the 17th of August and the 23rd of August, we had been together that particular evening, and we had decided to go to Hollywood to get tattoos. So I had said to him, you know, I'm going to go ahead and get one. He says, well, you know, can I get this and that, and I'll repay you for it. I said, fine, no problem. Well, because of the fact that we were in a relationship, I took him at his word.
Okay, so tattoos, joint tattoos. What else?
They weren't joint. Then there's a diving mask and the leather phone case and charger for the cell phone that I got him. The phone case and the diving mask were September 15th and September 24th. Then in December was the remote control battery for the car and the satellite radio. And then in November, he asked me to buy him a CD burner. Then there is, in November again, there's window tinting on his truck that I spent $100 for as well. That was supposed to be reimbursed. And then we have the...
okay, so you gave him the first money in August. Is that right?
Yeah.
Did he pay you back that money?
None of it.
You gave him money in September?
None of it.
Shh, listen to me. You gave him money in September?
Yes.
Did he pay you back? No. And you gave him money in November?
Yes.
And when you gave him money in November, he hadn't paid back the August, September, October money?
Right.
So let me explain to you what happened. You gave him a lot of money.
Yeah, I did.
Right. So you have to cross it off. You made a mistake. Put your hand down. I didn't ask you a question. I'm not pleased with you either. We understand each other, sir?
Yes, sir. I mean, yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Good. Because as far as I'm concerned, if what you did was, if you were living with your wife, and for at least part of this time you were living with your wife, and you were accepting gifts from her.
Right, but if I could...
I'm speaking. Try looking at my eyes. And if you were accepting gifts from her, that doesn't make you a nice person. Doesn't make her a nice person. Doesn't make you a nice person. And it makes me the victim because I got to listen to this baloney.
Right.
You made a mistake. You had no legitimate expectation that he was going to pay you back. Maybe you thought he was going to leave his wife and you were going to be together. But you had no legitimate expectation of being paid back for a tattoo in August, in December when you loaned him yet more money.
And they weren't separated at the time. They were still living together. They lived with his sister and whoever else.
And according to you, the reason that you gave him the cell phone was that you agreed that his wife shouldn't see when you called him.
Right. But if you'll notice on these bills, he's called his old, used it for everything else.
I don't care. I'm talking about your character, not his.
Okay.
I'm talking about your character.
It was a mistake.
I'm talking about your character, not a mistake.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Get over it.
He's got a kid from another woman, and he's 3. I mean, she cheats all the time.
Are you trying to justify to me
No.
the fact that you're an idiot?
And later today,
I'm sitting there for about 10 minutes or so, and he just came up out of the garage and started hitting me in the back of the head and the face.
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I don't remember
Well,
doing
that's the problem when you drink too much, sir.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Susan Avitan says ex-boyfriend Carlos Zuniga owes for a loan and a cell phone bill. Carlos is countersuing for defamation of character.
All right, sir. Now that you understand that you have 0% of my sympathy, I'm going to hear your counterclaim.
Some time ago, this last time I changed my phone number, my cell phone number, when she tried to contact me after I changed it, she couldn't, so then she proceeded to call my wife and left a message on her voicemail stating that she was to tell me that if I think I'm a smart, what she was going to do was file a sexual harassment complaint with the city of Beverly Hills, and then she was going to call my boss and write her letter explaining everything that has happened.
She left that in a message?
Yes.
You have it?
I don't have the message. Unfortunately, we weren't able to record it.
Right.
But,
which I did not.
But I have the letter that she did write to my boss.
As well
and
as I.
everything is explained there, the
Can I see
defamation
it?
of character. I also have a record of several phone bills that she called
Can
every
I
time
say
she
something
called
about
me.
the?
No.
And if you take a look at these phone records, there are quite a bit of phone calls. They're all highlighted for you.
Why did you go to the police?
Do you really want me to go into the gory details?
Well, I
what
want to know
happened-
first. Why don't you tell me when you went to the police?
I went to the police in April.
Shh. You went to the police in April, not while you were dating and intimate with him afterwards.
Yeah. But there's extenuating circumstances as well with that letter. I had a previous...
You were on medication.
No, I should have been.
No, you were on medication.
No.
She tried to get me fired.
I believe that she tried to get you fired.
Well, no, you know what? It wasn't that I tried to get him fired. I was let go from that job because when Carlos and I got involved, it was getting more difficult for me to work with him, obviously, right? And there was an incident in an x-ray room at the hospital that when the detectives brought him in, he lied flat out to them and told them that he didn't do it. And I have a friend that she couldn't be here today, that I told about it right after it happened.
You got fired from your job, so you tried to get him fired.
No, that's not why, because we were still dating at that point.
She also tried to get
Just a second. So what you're telling me is you were still dating and you were complaining that he sexually harassed you in an x-ray room?
No, this was after the fact.
Listen, get over it. Get over it.
Okay.
Stop acting like a baby. How old are you?
Old enough.
Then stop acting like a baby. You fool around with a married guy, you get burned. You lose money, you can lose your job, you lose your self-respect. Lots of bad things happen to you. Get over it.
If I could say one other thing, I work at Hollywood Park at the racetrack, and she also almost got me fired from there. She would call there constantly speaking to my manager.
Oh, you're such a liar,
And then
Carlos.
after
Listen, I don't want to hear from you.
And she even had a big cookie delivered there. When she had that delivered there, right after she had it delivered, she called constantly trying to ask what my reactions were, if I had any comments.
Did you seek a restraining order
Yes, I
against
did.
her? And what happened?
The first time we appeared in court, the judge said that it was just a whole bunch of nonsense and it was foolish. That same day, she contacted me. She called my cell phone. Throughout that month, she called me a total of probably anywhere from 10 to 18 times. When we went back to court, there was a different judge that heard the case the second time. The judge said what she was doing wasn't considered harassment, and he dropped the case. And I have a copy of the restraining order here.
I'd like to see a copy of the restraining order.
The reason he had the restraining order issued to begin with is I had also purchased some tires and rims for him that I wanted back when we had split up that he hadn't paid for. And that's
Listen to me. You bought him a bunch of presents and you got angry.
But that has nothing to do with the tires and rims.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
He had the restraining order issued to cover it up for his wife. This was a bunch of nonsense. He's been living with her the whole time that we were together. He's lying.
Listen to me. Madam, get over it.
He's got a kid from another woman, and he's 3. I mean, she cheats all the time.
Listen.
I'm not the only one.
So what? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. Are you trying to justify to me the fact that you're an idiot?
Well, yeah, that goes without saying, but...
Are you trying to... I'm telling you, get over it. Get over it. You have no case against him. You made him a whole bunch of gifts because you liked the attention, you liked the affection, you liked the intimacy, whatever it was. He dumped you. It's over.
That's fine.
It's over. So then stop this nonsense. You're the plaintiff here. Put your hand down. Mr. Zuniga, you play with fire, you're going to get burned, sir. Don't come here asking for a court to take up time when you did the wrong thing. If you broke her heart, Mr. Zuniga, because you took advantage of her, you allowed her to buy you gifts, you allowed her to buy you rims for your car, you allowed her to buy you a CD burner, you allowed her to pay for a tattoo, you allowed her to indulge you. And all the time you knew that this was just a temporary thing. You were still living at home. You were lying to your wife. Remember what I told you 5 minutes ago?
Right.
Zero sympathy for you, sir. Courts don't help people like you.
I agree. I mean...
Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He came after me. He's a liar. He's got a child from another woman that's 3 years old. He's been married for 5 years. He's been cheating on his wife since they've been married.
He worked with me. She knows my wife worked there. All the gifts that she gave me, I've asked her to take them all back, and she never did.
He would cry to me that his wife was mean to him, and I mean, he's a liar.
He's just one of those types of person that wants to buy people's feelings.
Believe me, I wouldn't do this again for $1 million.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Clapp Miller versus Walker. Step forward, please.
17-year-old Lisa Clapp and her mother, Laura Miller, are suing 22-year-old Tim Walker for medical bills. Lisa says during a St. Patrick's Day party, Tim attacked her, breaking her nose.
Lisa, how long have you known Mr. Walker?
I really don't. He was a friend of my boyfriend's friend, and so like I only saw him a few times.
Did you have any bad words with him?
No, never.
Do you know Mr. Walker? How long you know Miss Clapp?
Yeah, probably about over like a 2-month period. We met each other a couple times.
You have mutual friends. Is that right?
Yeah. Our mutual friend, like, what do you mean?
What word didn't you understand? Mutual or friend?
Mutual.
You have friends in common.
Yeah, every day.
How old are you?
22.
What do you do?
Brick mason.
You drink?
No, not anymore. I slowed down.
But you did.
Yeah, I did.
Miss Clapp says that you were at a party. Was it on St. Patrick's Day?
Yes, ma'am.
She was at a party, and she says that you were really drunk. Are you Irish?
Mm-mm.
What are you?
Polish and Indian.
But you celebrate St. Patrick's Day by drinking.
Well, I've always celebrated St. Patrick's Day.
Good.
But
And she says that while you were drinking and pretty drunk, you broke her nose. You assaulted her and broke her nose. And Mr. Walker says that drunk or sober, because he acknowledges that he was pretty drunk that day, right, Mr. Walker? He said drunk or sober, he would never hit a woman. He doesn't know why you would, in the world, you would accuse him of that. So why don't you tell me what happened?
Well, we got to the party, my ex-boyfriend and I, and we went in and everyone was drunk. Tim was the drunkest person there. There was like 2 guys there I didn't know, a girl I'd met maybe twice.
I'm not interested in who was at the roster of the party.
Yes,
Just
ma'am.
tell me about Mr. Walker, please.
Well, one of the guys that I didn't know, Mr. Walker decided that he wanted to fight him. He threw a couple swings at the guy ducked and said, you know, you're messed up, man, just go to sleep, I'm gonna leave. And the guy left. He was in the driveway, he had kind of just walked off after that, and everyone else had gone into the garage. And he was still in the driveway, and it was pretty dark, and so nobody really knew where he was. And we were all sitting in the garage, and like I'm sitting there for about 10 minutes or so, and he just came up out of the garage and started hitting me in the back of the head, in the face.
You have a police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it.
They would not give me the photographs.
Were you arrested?
Mm-mm,
Were
never.
you questioned?
Yes, I was.
Did you say you wanted to pursue these charges?
Yes, I did.
I'm amazed that he wasn't arrested. Why wasn't he arrested?
I don't know.
I don't understand why I would do something like this, because I've watched my mom when I was younger get beat by boyfriends. I was raised to respect women. I don't understand. I mean,
Drunk. She is not psychotic. When somebody is assaulted, unless they're psychotic, they want the person who assaulted them either to be punished and or to pay for their injuries. They don't pick somebody that didn't assault them.
no, I just no, I didn't do it.
Yeah, you did. You know how you did it? You did it because you'd had too much to drink and you were acting like an idiot.
I don't remember.
You don't
I
remember?
remember
Well,
doing
that's
it,
the
so.
problem when you drink too much, sir. You don't remember. How did you get to the party that night?
I actually lived with the guy that was throwing the party.
Do you remember waking up the next morning?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember going to sleep that night?
No, I don't.
Do you remember where you slept that night?
Yes, I do.
Where?
At a buddy's house,
How far away?
like across the street, another neighborhood.
Some distance away from your regular home.
Yes, ma'am.
How did you get there?
Another buddy drove me.
Why?
Because I don't know. Apparently, I walked off or something. I don't know.
You have hospital bills, please.
Yes.
That's what I was told. So.
That's what?
I said that's what I was told.
What do
by
you mean
other
that's what
friends.
you were told?
When I woke up next morning, my friends told me that this is what I did, and I didn't remember it. So
You didn't remember getting to your friend's house?
No, I did not.
That's what happens when you drink too much. And you hurt her. You broke her nose. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step. Now, this is case number 199 on the calendar in the matter of Coggins versus Piper. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Coggins, according to the complaint that I read, you and Mr. Piper lived together for a period of time.
Yes.
And you took out a loan.
Yes.
And the loan was to be primarily used for a car for you. What kind of a car did you buy?
1990 Mustang.
How much did you pay for it?
$3,200.
How much of a loan did you give him?
$4,500.
What'd you do with the rest?
Well, she got a portion of the money, approximately $300 to $400, and the rest of the money I used to plate the car and insure the car.
And then shortly after the loan, the two of you broke up.
Yes.
He made some payments on the loan and then stopped.
Yes.
You want him to pay the loan.
Yes.
Mr. Piper says that he was forced to sell the car, stop making the payments because you moved out of the apartment, leaving him with the lease and the bills. And he couldn't do everything, so he stopped making the car payments.
Well, I paid some payments. I did not.
How many payments did you make?
I believe 4.
And in what amount?
122 and some change.
Does that sound right?
I believe he made 4, but only $55 have been made since the payments were always late, and they were adding the interest and the payments were always late. He's only actually paid $55 on the loan.
Can I see your last statement, please?
Yes.
So I can look at it. Well, the balance is 4,445.20, but some of this is yours.
Right.
Well, let's say there's $4,000 left on the loan. Now, did you both sign a lease for this apartment?
Yes.
When did you sign the lease?
March of 2004.
And when did you move out?
I moved out July of 04.
Are you still in the apartment?
Yes.
What was the rent on the apartment?
$735 a month.
And what was your financial arrangement with regard to the rent?
I was supposed to pay all of the bills, the electric and the cable and the cell phone bills, and him and his brother were supposed to pay the rent. They were supposed to split it.
3 of you living there?
Yes.
Is that right?
My brother did move in, but we were not splitting the rent. That wasn't the agreement.
Yes, it was.
Shh. Why not?
Due to the fact my brother had just got back from the Navy, he was in a tight spot, he needed a place to live. I let him move in with us under the agreement that he would pay $200 a month.
Is he paying $200 a month?
Yes.
Then you're almost whole, sir. If the rent is $735, let him pay half the rent. He's not in a bind anymore.
I understand, but he's
Right.
also not on the lease.
I don't care whether he's on the lease or not. He's living there.
Yes.
I mean, your defense to this whole action with regard to the car is that she left you with the lease, which I would take into consideration, except for the fact that you moved your brother into the apartment and he can pay half the rent. I mean, he's a big boy.
Yeah, but what was I supposed to do when she left the lease, didn't have somebody else move in?
Listen to me very carefully.
Okay.
When you moved into the apartment together,
Mm-hmm.
the two of you, in March of '04, did your brother move in with you
Yes.
at the same time?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
With no agreement that he was to pay at least a third of the rent?
No. The agreement was $200.
Well, you better change the agreement, sir. Circumstances change. He's living there with you. Now, put your hand down. You sold the car.
Correct.
Who did you sell it to?
Kid named John.
Did you put a sign in the window?
No, I didn't.
Well, how did you sell it?
The kid came to my mother's house where the car was parked in the backyard. He had them get a hold of me because he wanted to purchase the car.
You mean it was like Karnak? He said, oh, this must be a car that's for sale?
Well, the person that I bought the car from was friends with this kid. He was looking for that kind of car, so he came to me.
How much did he pay for the car?
How much did he pay for it?
That's my question, sir. It doesn't give you an opportunity to think about an answer.
I just
you should
didn't
know
hear
that.
you.
You should know that like that.
Yes,
Don't
he-
play with me.
He paid $1,100 for the car.
Why didn't you give that $1,100 to her?
Why would I give it to her?
Well, who's supposed to pay this loan?
Me.
But you haven't been doing that.
At that time, I was still paying the payment.
But then you stopped.
Correct.
So why didn't you give her the $1,100?
Because I was paying the loan at the time it was
But
up to
then you
date.
stopped.
The $1,100 by that point was gone. I mean, the situation I was in, I didn't
Who is this?
have... This is my girlfriend.
What is she here for?
Because she's been the one dealing with Ashley during this whole thing.
Why is she dealing with Ashley?
Because I
Because he
repeatedly...
refused to talk to me.
I repeatedly asked her not to call me. If she needed to get a hold of me, I asked her to ask her mother to call me,
No,
to email me,
that's not true.
or
Oh,
to
shh.
have...
I don't want to hear you unless I ask you a question.
I repeatedly asked
I'm
her
getting
not to call
frustrated
me.
with you, Mr. Piper.
Okay.
I'm getting frustrated with you, Mr. Piper. Somebody takes out a loan for you. You promise to pay them. You stop paying them. You sell the only equity that exists, which is your car.
Well, to tell you the truth, the car wasn't part of the loan.
Well, what was the loan for?
I'm saying there was no... That wasn't collateral on the loan or anything like that. Okay, this loan was just a
Is
personal
that-
loan. It wasn't a car loan.
I understand what it was, sir. She
Okay.
took out the loan to enable you to spend $3,200 plus tags and fees to buy a car.
Correct.
Of course I'm correct. You think you're smarter than I am?
No, ma'am.
On your smartest day. You're not as smart as I am on my worst day.
Okay.
What do you want?
I was wondering if I could say something.
Of course. I haven't had lunch.
Well, Danny was with Ashley throughout their whole high school career.
I don't give a, listen to me.
I
listen to me
understand that.
carefully. I don't give a rat's behind whether they were soulmates in utero.
Okay.
He took money from her.
I
Listen,
understand that.
Try to be quiet and watch my mouth. He took money from her to buy a car. He stopped making payments on the car. He stopped making payments to her for the loan that she took out to enable him to buy a car. And then he has the gall to sell the car and not give her the proceeds.
She lived with Danny, was very unsatisfied with whatever Danny did. Left, did not pay any rent, didn't pay anything, asked him, oh, she is always in contact. Did you pay the rent? Did you pay this? Did you pay that? If you walked out, you are supposed to find someone to take your place. She did not do that. She left Danny with everything. Left him with the rent, the utilities. He had shut-off notices.
Listen to me.
A roof over his head is more important than a loan payment
When
that
my
she
mouth
should have
starts to move, yours is not moving. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He has no right not to pay his debts. And if you are making excuses for him,
I'm not.
Good, then you deserve each other.
And later today,
Why didn't you have it out when you were supposed to?
I hadn't realized how much stuff I had accumulated. I didn't realize how long
You
it would
mean
take.
it just came up and bit you on the behind?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ashley Coggins says she loaned money to ex-boyfriend Daniel Piper so he could buy a 1990 Mustang. Ashley says Daniel has never paid her back.
Danny has a brother, a big, strong guy who served his country, who came back, and who now has a roof over his head, cable, gas, electric, rent. And these two boys have to manage to pay $735 rent. And they can get that by collecting cans if they need more money. His brother, if he is trying to find a job, can go and work in a fast food place for minimum wage. You can make $350 a month doing that. He has no right not to pay his debts. And if you are making excuses for him,
I'm not.
Good, then you deserve each other. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,000. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
After he asked her numerous times, don't call, I took the initiative to make the decision with her that me and her would communicate.
Well, I was calling him. The loan was in my name, and the bank was contacting me at work.
I couldn't handle it anymore. I mean, too many phone calls is too many phone calls.
He doesn't want to take care of his responsibilities. He just wants to let everybody else handle everything.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Schaefer versus Tyler. Step forward.
20-year-old Michael Schaefer is suing ex-roommate, 22-year-old Jacob Tyler, for damage to his property. Michael claims Jacob removed items from the apartment and left them outside.
All right, so I have some preliminary questions. Let's listen up very carefully, and let's start with the ground rules, which are everybody tells me the truth, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. You two were roommates for
Yes.
a period of time. Which one was the neat one?
I was.
And who was the slob?
He was.
I wouldn't say I was a slob. I wasn't as anal retentive as Jacob.
He had roommates that were.
This is your complaint. Mr. Tyler moved out before the end of the lease.
Yes.
Mutual?
Yes.
Yes.
The lease was to expire on May 31st of this year.
Yes, ma'am.
On May 31st, you came back.
To verify.
I like to tell the story myself.
I'm
I like to
sorry.
do this as a one-man show, except that I need sometimes some input from you.
Okay.
You came back to ensure that he moved out on time because you were still responsible on the lease,
Yes.
and they had your security deposit.
Yes,
Right?
ma'am.
And when you came back, you found Mr. Schaefer not being a slob, a little disorganized. All of his stuff is still there. The place is a pigsty, and you start to clean it up.
Yes.
He leaves. Where did you go on May 31st, by the way, when you left?
It was about 10 o'clock at night. I went home to go to sleep.
You went home where?
To my parents' house. I moved back in with my parents.
When did you move back in with your parents, Mr. Schaefer?
I had been moving things into their house over the course
When was the last time you slept in this apartment?
of the morning of May the 31st.
Now, you have to be very careful because I'm going to put you in between a rock and a hard place, sir. When you went back to your parents' house to sleep at 10 p.m. on May 31st, you were aware of the fact that the next day you were supposed to be totally out of the apartment, or midnight that night, correct?
Yes, correct.
But you went home at 10 o'clock.
Yes.
And you still had a lot of stuff there.
Some things, yes.
Well, that's why you're here, Mr. Schaefer, because it is your claim that you had a lot of stuff there that he took out and set outside, and it was either ruined by the rain or stolen. So it's a lot of stuff. Let's see how much stuff you say was there. $713 worth of stuff.
About 400 of which was the TV.
Why didn't you take that stuff and have it out when you were supposed to?
I hadn't realized how much stuff I had accumulated. I didn't realize how long
You
it would
mean
take.
it just came up and bit you on the behind? And if you did, why didn't you, instead of going home at 10 o'clock at night, Mr. Schaefer, stay up until midnight and get all the stuff out of there?
I was very tired.
That's too bad.
I figured we could settle up with the apartment. We could pay for an extra day just to get the rest of my stuff
You
out.
weren't going to pay for anything because the security deposit was his.
We would have settled afterward.
I don't believe you. And after you got your stuff out, stop playing with your papers, Mr. Anal Retentive.
Sorry.
Who was supposed to clean it after you got your junk out?
I had been cleaning that day, and Jacob actually came by the apartment to clean and to patch holes that he had punched in the walls because he had quite an anger problem.
Just a second. So you had been cleaning that day?
Cleaning and
Is that
moving
what you're telling me? You had been cleaning that day?
Yes, I vacuumed the carpets. I was moving my stuff out, just going through the whole process.
Mr. Schaefer, you're full of baloney. Your stuff wasn't out of there. As far as I'm concerned, the landlord could have taken your stuff and thrown it in a dumpster at midnight. He's not responsible for your stuff after midnight.
I cleared it with the apartment manager the following morning.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Where is the manager? I want to interview the manager.
We don't have that manager
Well,
here.
that's too bad because that's hearsay. When a lease is up, it's up.
Before I left the apartment, Jacob was patching the holes up, and I had said, you know, I'm going home. I'll be back in the morning for the rest of my things. Don't touch anything. He said, okay, fine, and we left it at that.
Is that what happened, Mr. Tyler?
Yeah.
What happened?
I told him that it was unacceptable because when I got there, the fridge still had food in it. There was no cleaning done in the kitchen. The vacuum that was there wasn't even being used on the carpet. I cleaned a bathroom that they never cleaned since we moved in there. It was beyond filthy. I came back to actually patch up the holes in the wall.
What were the holes in the wall from, sir?
From me and parties that they had been at, and I got upset because there was all these kids that were underage drinking, and I have pictures to prove that they were.
Do you have any proof of what this place looked like when you got there?
I have a witness, but she's in the Air Force boot camp right now, and I can't.
Can't help you there with that.
I know.
I have no
I'm sorry.
control over the Air Force.
Yes, ma'am, I know.
I like to think I would like to, but I don't. Mr. Tyler,
Yes, ma'am.
you had $440 in security deposit.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you get any back?
I had 140, and I have a copy showing the amount which was taken out.
Can I see that, please?
And also at the top, ma'am, this is the part where I had the power turned off, and Mr. Schaefer was supposed to get it turned on in his name. He didn't.
We
so
never-
the apartment,
we never
the
talked about
apartment
that at
took
all.
care of it. The apartment charged me for the water, the trash, the electric that he accumulated.
So you lost your security deposit?
Yes, ma'am. And
Okay.
the added rent was for...
Now, did you patch up the walls?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Because there's nothing here about patched walls.
I have this also that says that there's multiple or new contact, lots of resident damage into.
Well, it doesn't say here anything about charging you for holes in the wall.
No, that wasn't.
Which means that
but they
you
were
patched
charging
them. I'm speaking. Listen to what I'm saying to you. It's not here to hurt you. I said there is nothing that indicates from the apartment complex that they are charging you for holes in the wall. That would be a good thing. Then
Yes,
you say, you are right. You are correct, Judge.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Where did you put whatever stuff of his was left outside?
I moved it underneath the stairwell of the upstairs apartment, and I covered it with blankets. I wrapped his VCR in bubble wrap. Unfortunately, he said that it rained the next morning in the area.
What happened when you came back the next day? So first of all, what time did you come back to the apartment the next day?
About 9 in the morning.
And what did you find when you got there?
I came there with my girlfriend. This is Nicole. We came there with her truck to get the rest of my stuff, and we came up to the apartment.
Just a second. Step up. Your last name is?
Sierra.
Miss Sierra, when did Mr. Schaefer pick you up?
I came to pick him up with my truck at a little bit before 9 a.m. on June the 1st. to go retrieve the rest of our stuff.
Had you been there? What do you mean the rest of your stuff? Had you been living there too?
No, I just...
Some of her stuff was in there. I'm sorry.
Don't speak.
My couch cushions and my vacuum was there.
So my
and-
question is, had you been living there?
No, ma'am.
Had you been staying there?
Yeah.
Don't play with me. Had they used your truck to move the other items? Don't look, listen to me. Don't look at him. Don't you have an independent recollection of this? I asked you, had they used your truck to move out the other items?
Yes, some of the other stuff.
How many days had they used your truck?
Probably about 4 days.
Good. And where were you the night of May 31st?
I was at home.
Doing what?
Resting. I work 30 hours a week, and so I was just...
Oh, my God, 30 hours a week. Oh, you must be exhausted. How old are you?
I'm 23.
23, and you work 30 hours
and I
a week?
go to school full-time.
Good. What school do you go to?
I just graduated from the North Lake Community College in Dallas, Texas.
Good. So you graduated from college, and I know from college. I mean, I know how many hours a day one goes to college. So 30 hours a week working, you can manage. So you were exhausted.
I wasn't exhausted.
What about you? How exhausted were you? Where do you work?
I worked at Metro Volkswagen.
And you also go to school full-time?
No, I'm not in school currently.
You work 40 hours a week?
Yes, ma'am.
So you work 40 hours a week and don't do anything else. You've got a girlfriend who works 30 hours a week and goes to school full-time, so you should have been pretty wide awake on the 31st. I don't see what you needed to go to sleep for at 10 o'clock at night. You have no case, sir. He is not obligated to risk his security deposit because you decided you needed an early nap. He secured your stuff as best as he possibly could. If it was ruined by the rain, that's your problem. You should have had it out by May 31st. You owe him $440 for security deposit. Because you lived like pigs, then you have to pay for that. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. Case number 223 on the calendar, the matter of Estes versus Oliver. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Estes, it is your claim that Mr. Oliver was an uninvited guest in your home and that he assaulted you in your home.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Oliver, although he acknowledges that there were blows exchanged, says that he struck you in self-defense. You actually hit him first. And it is his claim that he was invited, not by you, but by someone else to the house. Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are you?
19.
You go to college?
Yes, ma'am.
Which one?
Oklahoma City Community College.
Could you try to speak a little slower? I'm old.
Oklahoma City Community College.
You live at home?
Yes.
And you, sir?
I go to a community college in Cleburne, Hill College. I did go to University of Oklahoma until this happened.
Is that why you changed schools?
Yes.
Did you have an apartment?
I was renting a house from witness Mark's parents had a rent house, and we were renting it from them.
How many people lived there?
3.
Were you living there as well, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Stand up. What's your name?
Mark Williams.
Are you scared?
No. Kind of nervous. A little nervous. I'm sorry.
Step over here. I have a couple of questions. Mr. Williams, this is your parents' house?
Yes.
Who was the third roommate?
Christopher.
Do you know Mr. Oliver? Did you know him before this incident happened?
Yeah, I knew him from high school, just randomly, just because we went to the same high school, I knew of him.
But he wasn't your friend?
No.
So you didn't invite him to your house?
No.
What date did this incident happen?
May 22nd.
Did you invite him to the house, Mr. Estes?
No, ma'am.
Did you know him from before?
No, ma'am.
Now, this Christopher person, is that the person that you knew?
No, ma'am.
You didn't know Christopher either?
No.
So you didn't know any of the 3 people that lived in this house?
No, ma'am.
What brought you to the house?
My friend DJ was leaving for the Navy, and they were throwing him a going away party, and he called us and asked us to come by.
You know DJ?
Yes.
Was he having a party at your house?
No, ma'am.
How many people were in the house on the evening of the 22nd of May?
About 7. We each had a friend over.
Was DJ there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it was the 3 people who lived in the house, plus 4 guests?
Yes.
All guys?
It was Sarah, one of her friends.
It was a girl.
It was a
Sarah
girl.
is definitely a girl.
Well, her friend is a girl.
What?
Her friend is a girl.
And DJ and us 3 that lived in the house.
Okay, so it was just a small gathering?
Yeah.
Okay, now you can sit down. Okay, so DJ said come on over to say goodbye?
Yes. He said they're having a going away party for me, and he asked
Well,
us
this
to come
doesn't
over.
sound like much of a party. There were only 7 people there.
There was more than 7 people there. There were people in the front yard.
There were only 7 people in the house, according to them. Where had you been that evening, Mr. Oliver?
I was over at a friend's house there on campus.
Anybody drinking?
Yeah.
What about you?
Yes.
Who was driving?
Me.
How did I know that? How do you think?
I don't know, man.
You'll never know. So you were drinking and driving and went over to see your friend DJ, and what happened, sir?
When we were leaving the
Who's
party,
we?
my friend Ricky, and I had one more friend with me. I guess people overheard us and thought we were going to another party. So we had about 5 carloads of people following us, saying we were going to another party.
You had 5 carloads of people following you where?
They thought we were going to another party, man. We tried to tell them that we weren't, and they followed us anyway.
What time?
About 2:30 in the morning, man.
You got the picture here, sir, that I'm not happy with you.
Yes, ma'am.
Keep going.
Okay, well, when we got there, we were walking up to the door. Mark lets me and my friend Ricky and David in.
You had let 3 of them in, is that right?
No.
Well, tell me what happened, sir. Thought he just said that you let them in.
I opened the door. I was the first one to open the door, and I see there's 30 people outside that I don't know. And I see him and Ricky. They first come in. I never said they could come in. They just kind of pushed me aside and came in.
Okay.
And then they ran into him.
Now, where were the other 30 people that were outside?
Just out in my front yard. And I was like, I don't want these people here because my neighbors are going to call the cops, you know. They're making noise.
Right. 5 carloads of them.
Yeah.
So he ran into you.
Yes, ma'am.
What did you say?
I told them it was late. I didn't know who they were. There were 20 or 30 people out in our yard. We didn't want them here. They needed to leave. He tried to push me aside, and I tried to push him out of my house, and he dragged me outside, and
Just a second. Well, Mr. Oliver, when Mr. Estes told you to leave, why didn't you leave?
Man, Mr. Estes never told us to leave. When we got there, Mark let us in. He stops us in the hall, and he put his hands on my chest and asked, who are all these people?
Who were all these people?
Yeah, because they were still walking up.
You
They were
mean the
waiting
other
behind
30
us.
of them?
I don't know if there was 30, ma'am.
5 carloads. And he said to you, who are all these people? And what did you say?
I said, ma'am, I don't know. They followed us here.
And what happened after you
Well,
said that?
when he put his hands on me, I pushed his hand down like that, and I asked him not to touch me because I didn't know him. And he looks at me crazy and tells me that, you know, he pays the MF and rent here, and grabbed me on my shirt like that and tried to push me into the door. And when he did that, I kind of put my weight forward, and when I did, he swung at me, and he hit me in the jaw. And I retaliated by hitting him twice. He falls forward on me, I'm on my back, and I try to get up. I push myself, and he's still got a hold of my shirt. So people are running over there kicking and hitting. I'm getting kicked, he's getting kicked. I can't get up, and then I finally get pulled to my feet from one of my friends. And then when I got to my feet, I saw Mark had a cast on his hand. I don't remember which hand it was. But he's pushing people back, and he swung it at my friend Ricky here. And Ricky blocked, and it hit him in his forearms with the cast. And then Ricky pushed him back, and pretty much got out of there after that. Because I didn't know those people. It was, I mean, it's a rich neighborhood. It's 2:30 in the morning, so we left. I didn't want to be involved with that situation.
Well, Mr. Oliver, if you didn't want to be involved with that situation, sir, why didn't you just go home?
Because my friend
Instead of making trouble by stopping with 5 carloads of people that you don't know that have been out drinking all night because it's 2:30 in the morning and they're going to another party. Instead of being involved in creating a situation where none existed, Mr. Oliver, you created an incident. You had had enough to drink, you were behind the wheel, you were taking a caravan over to someone's house that you didn't know in the rich part of town. You brought with you 5 carloads of drunken teenagers looking for another party. That's what you did. You created an incident because you're young and stupid.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You were arrested for using an illegal drug.
No, I got arrested for possession, ma'am.
Either you were using or selling. I mean, you weren't decorating your house with it, right?
And later today,
Until I see your world implode, I wish you death and suffering, misery to spare. To my ex, you know who you are.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Gary Estes III says he was assaulted in his home by Ryland Oliver. Ryland says Gary swung at him first.
Mr. Oliver, they don't live in a rural area on 30 acres, do they? They live with houses right next door?
Yes.
With maybe people who are not 19 years old?
Yes.
Maybe sleeping at 2:30 in the morning?
Probably.
Maybe not interested in hearing you and your moronic friends? Probably.
Ma'am, when we got there, it was not 7 people there. They had people outside
Listen
drinking
to me,
in front of the
sir.
yard.
You brought over 5 carloads of people to a neighborhood where they didn't belong. And if you wanted to say goodbye to your friend, and if unfortunately 5 carloads of people, strangers, started to follow you, you go to the local police precinct and you say, these 5 carloads of people are following me. I don't want them to follow me. But you don't take them to an unsuspecting neighborhood unless you're an idiot. Can I see photographs, please? You have photographs for me?
No.
Was he arrested?
No.
Why not?
Because the police said that they felt that if we pressed charges, he'd retaliate. And
Can I see your police report, please?
And that's the picture of me is proof that I didn't just get pushed when I was trying to break it up.
No, you got so you were
I got
assaulted.
hit.
Mr. Oliver.
Yes, ma'am.
How many times were you arrested before?
Once.
When?
February 7th, I believe.
Of this year?
Yes.
For what?
Possession of marijuana and speeding.
So at that point, you were arrested for using an illegal drug and driving, right?
No, I got arrested for possession, ma'am.
Well,
I never got arrested
either
for
you were
influence.
using or selling. I mean,
Neither.
you weren't decorating your house with it, right?
Probably
Either
not.
you were using or selling.
I was using, ma'am, but I was.
Well, that's the answer. Can I see your unreimbursed medical bills, please? Anything you want to say to me?
No, ma'am.
Good idea. You're a fast learn. You have any idea how many people were hitting you?
4 or 5, at least, were kicking me.
And the 4 or 5 that were hitting you and or kicking you, because you have serious lacerations in your head, were those the people that came in this caravan of 5 cars?
I'm
They
assuming.
weren't your guests.
No, they weren't. And I still have shoulder rehab I have to go through. I may have to have surgery on it.
There are consequences to your actions. One of the consequences to your actions is having to listen to me. I'm telling you that your actions caused him serious physical injury and a lot of pain and suffering, because I've seen the photographs. Have you seen them?
Nope.
Would you like to see them?
Not really.
It's mature. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
I was getting kicked in the face, and I just tried to cover my head up, and Ryland stomped on my head and split it open.
When I was leaving, he was on the ground, and there was people swarming him.
All I was trying to do was get people off of him, and then they started hitting me.
He was practically unconscious, and he was bleeding like a waterfall of blood from his nose. It was terrible.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Smith versus MacArthur. Step forward, please.
19-year-old Jennifer Smith is suing her ex-fiancé, 23-year-old James MacArthur, for destroying her property, throwing her engagement ring in a lake, and slander.
Miss Smith, you and Mr. MacArthur were engaged to be married. It didn't work out. And it is your claim that after you broke up, Mr. MacArthur took some of your property, vandalized some of your property, and then posted some very negative things about you on the internet, which you view as slanderous, and you want to be compensated for that. Mr. MacArthur says the only thing that he took back was the engagement ring.
Yes.
And as far as destroying your property, he did not do that. And as far as placing items on the internet, he says he never mentioned you by name on any website. How long were you engaged, Mr. MacArthur?
We were engaged for about 2 years.
Did she break up with you, or did you break up with her?
She wanted to take time apart, and I told her I did not want that.
Okay, so she wasn't sure.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably a good idea that you didn't get married.
Yeah.
If somebody's not sure, it's better off to figure it out now than later, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Smith, what items do you claim that Mr. MacArthur stole from you?
He has several of my CDs. He took my engagement ring. I was later informed that that was thrown into a lake.
Well, the engagement ring he's entitled to take back.
It was a birthday present. It was given to me as a birthday present. It was given to me on my birthday as an engagement
your
ring.
engagement ring was given to you on your birthday.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, he's entitled to it back.
It was given as a birthday gift, though.
Listen to, watch me. He asked you to marry him and gave you a ring on your birthday. It was an engagement ring. Did you show it to people as an engagement ring?
Yes.
Did you say to them, this is my engagement ring?
It was.
Did you say to them, this is my engagement ring?
Yes.
You didn't say, this is my birthday present. You got my drift, Miss Smith.
Yes.
If you broke off the engagement, it means the marriage never took place. He's entitled to the ring back. And if he wants to throw it in the lake, he can throw it in the lake. And if he wants to throw it down a sewer, he can do that too. Okay? See how fair I am? Okay. Do you have any of her CDs, Mr. MacArthur?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
I'm not getting myself totally exercised over the CDs. People who were engaged for 2 years, if all they're fighting about is CDs, that means they're not very mature.
I also have CDs that he returned to me that were destroyed when I picked them up.
I'd like to see those.
This is only the ones that were returned to me. That's not the ones that he still has possession of. Some of those are expensive CDs. Some of the CDs that he still has are very expensive.
I don't know what you mean they're destroyed. I have no idea what that means.
If you look at all of them, each of them has a gouge going from the center to the outside. They're completely destroyed. There's absolutely no way of
Well, this one. Yeah, this one is too.
those.
How did that happen, Mr. MacArthur?
I don't know, Your Honor. Her CDs sat in my trunk. I use my car for work, so I have tools coming in and out of my car every day. I don't
Your
pay
Honor,
attention.
my CDs were in a CD case.
Yeah, Mr. MacArthur. That looks like somebody purposely did that.
And it's
there.
it's identical.
Shh. You know how fair I am. This looks like somebody purposely did that. But doesn't that look to you as if somebody did that with a something?
Yeah, by all means.
You know what I mean, Mr. MacArthur?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, I don't think she would do that to her own CDs, because that would be stupid, especially since she broke up with you. But it would seem to me that you were pretty angry. So I have to put 1 and 1 together. That makes you. All right. So now you have these destroyed CDs, which I am placing squarely at the foot of him.
That doesn't include the ones that he still has.
I just answered your question about that 2 minutes ago. What part of I don't care don't you understand? There's no excuse for him vandalizing your property.
What's the excuse for him posting vulgar, slanderous stuff on the
Well,
internet?
that I want to see. There's no excuse for it. There's a reason that he might have done it, but that doesn't mean that there's an excuse.
He says that he never did it, although he called my house and he called my mother at her work.
Don't tell me. Don't tell me what he told your mother unless your mother is here. Is this what you're telling me?
Yes, it
Came
is.
off the internet?
Yes, it is. I was told to read that.
He doesn't mention your name here.
No, but it says to my ex, you know who you are, and I was told that
Don't tell me what you were told.
to read it.
Listen to me. Don't tell me what you were told. That's hearsay.
And I
There's no,
called
listen
him-
to me. He says, as far as his ex is concerned, one day the sun will die and the night will crawl. Until then, until I see your world implode, I wish you death and suffering, misery to spare. To my ex, you know who you are. Right?
I called him right after I read them, and I said, what is this about? He said, oh, I didn't mean to hurt you. I said, you wrote that, yet you didn't mean to. How could that not hurt me?
Ms. Smith, you have to understand what slander is. Slander is something that you say that is not true about somebody in a way that they can be identified. For instance, if he said, my ex, Jennifer Smith, has the following diseases, so everybody better stay away from her, and that's not true, then you can sue him for slander. I'm speaking, you're not listening. That's slander. If he wrote you a letter, and in the letter said to you, I wish you had a slow, painful death, and I was there to watch. I wish you suffer and get a vile disease. And he wrote that to you in a letter. That's not slander. That's the way he feels. That's protected speech. If you wrote this, I assume you did. He's entitled to do that.
It is slanderous, though, because at the top of it, it says, I just left someone who did nothing but use me for my money, and when she was done, she went and found someone new to do the same to them. My current boyfriend was hesitant about even talking to me because of that, because he assumed that because he stated it, that...
Listen to me. Who showed your boyfriend this?
I did.
Listen, I would like to... Listen to me. I want you to kiss the ground. You got the ring back, and that you're moving on with your life because she's not wrapped too tight. You got it? Good. But you can't scratch her CDs because that's childish. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
That you got to give her $150 for. The rest of your stuff is nonsense. What'd you do with the ring, by the way?
Threw it in the lake.
Attaboy.
On the calendar in the matter of Skelsey versus Roberts. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated and have a seat.
Thank you, Bird.
You're welcome, Judge.
Mr. Skelsey, you and Miss Roberts, according to the complaint that I've read, dated for a period of time. You claimed that you made her a loan of $250 at some point for rent. In addition, after you were no longer together, you never lived together, but you probably stayed over occasionally at her house because you claim you have some clothes at her house that she refuses to give you.
A few nights, yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Roberts says that the $250 that you gave her for her rent was a gift and that everything in the house that was yours you took. When did you date Miss Roberts? From when to when?
We met each other in January of this year. We met off a chat line kind of thing. We just started dating right off the bat.
You both live in the same community?
Yes, in the same area, yeah.
And when was this loan that you gave to her?
The loan was in May. She was having financial difficulties.
Tell me about the conversation that you had with her when you discovered she was in financial distress.
Actually, she asked me. She said,
No.
She did. She asked me. She goes, I'll do anything for you. Can you loan me some money? I'm having financial difficulties. I said, can you ask, one of the fathers of your children
He
can-
offered to
do
give
this?
Listen to me, Miss Roberts. Don't speak again until it's your turn.
And she said that she didn't want to do it because she was scared of like a custody thing. I said, okay, I understand. I have the extra money, and I'm going to need the money back soon, but I have the money right now available to you. I said, so here's the money. I wrote it out to her landlord.
You have a copy of the check?
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
Bird?
Chewing gum?
Yes.
Well, you shouldn't do that.
Okay, May 23rd. Was she late in her rent?
She wasn't working because she was sick,
No,
so
no.
was she late in her rent?
No, I'm asking you. This is dated May 23rd. Was this for May's
Yes.
rent?
Yes.
So you were almost a month late in your
Yes.
rent. Okay, so that's the loan. She never paid you back.
No, ma'am.
When did you stop dating Miss Roberts?
Oh, we stopped dating in like the end of February. We became friends with like benefits kind of thing, and I'm not one to move fast with a relationship, and her
Oh.
feelings moved fast with me.
So you stopped dating in February,
Yeah.
but remained friends.
Oh yeah, close friends, very
Good.
close.
And shortly after the loan, you stopped speaking?
Almost automatically right after the loan. She said she was busy with work and everything else, but all of a sudden a day-to-day, call or hanging out or whatever becomes, I didn't hear from her for like a week.
Okay. And what clothes do you have at her house, Mr.
Nike
Sell?
sweatshirt, a Champion sweatshirt, and a Nike pair of shorts.
Okay. You're not going to bother me with those things, are you? You know how many years I went to school? Do you know how many years? A lot of years. You don't
More
think
than
I'm
me.
going to be bothered by your Nike sweatshirt or a Nike sneaker or whatever it is that you're just talking about?
I value my clothes.
Yeah, good. Shouldn't have left them at her house.
I thought I could trust her.
Listen to me. This is not a give and take.
All right.
Do
Sorry.
you understand?
Mm-hmm.
We're not on an equal footing.
Okay.
I will discuss this alleged loan.
I also have a proof on tape recorder.
That
She admits to borrowing the money. I got it off my answering machine.
I'm going to hear it.
Right now?
Now's the time.
2 p.m. You are out of your mind if you think you're going to be taking me to court and thinking you're going to make $100 more than what you let me borrow for clothes. Come on now, Rob. It's ridiculous. There's clothes that you gave me to see what the you get out of me. All right? You want to do it this nasty way? I'm going to be a nasty and do it evil too.
Thank you. There is a way to communicate, Miss Roberts, that doesn't involve profanity. You do understand that?
Yes.
Now, how old are you, madam?
26.
And how many children do you have?
I have 4.
And how many fathers do your 4 children
2.
have? 2 for the youngest, 2 for the oldest?
Yep.
No, she told me. Sorry.
How old are your children?
9, 8, 6, and 5.
Okay. Why did you run short of money?
Because I was out of work. I was sick.
What was the matter with you?
I had strep and mono.
For how long?
For 2 weeks.
So what did you say to the plaintiff?
We were friends. I cried to him that I was late in rent. He offered to give me the money. At first, I said I didn't want to. And then, like a week later, I mentioned it again, how I was stressed out. And
No,
he
you didn't
offered
mention
again.
it again. That's not a mention. First, you told him, you cried, offered you the money, you said no. Okay, then it's over. You say no.
Right.
But then a week later, what did you say to him?
Then I was crying again, stressed out that I was behind. And then he offered again. And then I said
didn't offer
yes.
you last.
Shh, shh, shh. Remember what I said to her?
I did. Sorry.
So he helped you out with the rent.
Yes.
And then you went back to work.
Yes.
So why don't you pay him back?
Because then I got threatened with court.
Can I explain?
Well, just a second.
And it wasn't a loan to begin with.
Just a second. You know you have to pay rent. Miss Roberts, listen to me. Rent isn't something that comes up and bites you on the behind like a surprise. You know the first of every month you have to pay rent, right?
Yes.
This isn't an unexpected medical bill, an unexpected bill because your generator broke in your car, an unexpected bill because the brakes went dead. This is a set bill, you know. $250 for rent.
Your Honor, can I explain something?
Yes.
She said she was going to pay me on a certain day. I didn't get a phone call. I tried calling her 1,000,000 times in one day. I went to her house, not trying to harass, but, you know, make good on the deal. We're friends. Why are you going to avoid me? And then she tells me that she's stiffing her landlord because she wants to get out of her lease. So what makes her think she ain't going to stiff me?
Just a second. What do you mean she was stiffing her landlord?
She doesn't even live at her current address.
Yes, I do.
Well, you told me you were going to stiff your landlord and your
How
phone
do you,
got shut
listen
off.
to me, did she explain that to you, sir? How she was going to stiff her landlord just by not paying him rent?
Said that she wanted to get out of the lease, and the only way she could get out of it is by not paying her rent.
So then
I'm
why
still
did you
at
give
my
her 200?
address.
Shh. Then why did you give her $250?
Because she didn't have the money for rent, and her landlord said she'd get thrown out on the street, and I did it for the kids. I didn't do it for her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He asked me how come I seemed so distant, and I told him because I was seeing someone else, and he got mad.
Oh, that's a lie. Shh. Oh, you were dirty.
And later today,
You're going to tell me the truth today, even if it was a little different from what you told your mother. Got it?
Yes.
Because otherwise, bad things are going to happen.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robert Skelsey says ex-girlfriend Chalise Roberts owes for rent and the return of his clothes. Chalise says the money and clothes were both gifts.
All right, Miss Roberts, was he annoying you after you stopped taking his phone calls?
He wasn't annoying me. We were still really good friends. And we went for a walk one time. I do long walks to exercise. He came with me, and he asked me how come I haven't talked to him really, how come I seem so distant. And I told him because I was kind of seeing someone else, and he got mad.
Oh, that's a lie.
Shh. Just
I knew you were, though.
Just
Oh, you were dirty.
listen to me. If you open your mouth again, I'm going to say goodbye. Do you
Okay.
understand?
Yeah. Wow.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am. You got to understand, please. Sorry.
Miss Roberts, I want you to pay very careful attention to me. My sense is that you've made a certain amount of mistakes in your life. I think based on your history that that's a fair statement. You have 4 children, only 2 of them live with you. You got yourself in a financial pickle to the extent that you couldn't pay rent at your age with 4 children. That suggests to me that you've made certain tactical errors in your life.
No, I don't think so.
Well, from a more mature perspective, I'm telling you that if you have a 9-year-old child and you're 26 years old, then you've made certain mistakes in your life. You have to
It's
wait
not a
until you
mistake,
grow
it's
up. You
because I had a
you have
youth.
to wait until you grow up to have children. Otherwise, you have 2 children who don't live with you. Now,
That's not even
what
an
you
issue.
don't want to do is make another mistake. Uncross your arms.
I'm sorry.
He can be a problem. I want you to take that from somebody who has been around people for a very long time in this circumstance, and I'm telling you that if pushed, he can be a problem. So what you have to do is you have to say, do I want another problem in my life? Do I want this man angry with me, lives close by, I have a new relationship? Do I want him to have any connection to me that I can avoid? If not, and the only thing that's holding us together is a $250 rent check and a Champion sweatshirt, I can either have peace or I can have grief. And if you're a mature 26-year-old, you say, $250? Price of peace? It's well worth it. Do you
The only
understand?
payment he
do you
wanted back was sex
Listen to me.
for that money.
Do you
That's all.
understand?
So he
Do you
offered.
do you understand what I'm saying to you? Does that make sense to you? For $250 and a Champion sweatshirt, I can have peace. or I can have him annoyed with me, feel as if he's been used, feel as if he's been taken, feel as if he's been abused, feel as if he's been made a fool of.
I did all the work there, too.
So,
Sorry. Not ever again.
do you understand what I mean? He can't control himself.
Oh, I know.
That's what you want?
No.
You're an idiot if that's what you want. So I'm going to help you along. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $250. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was one of them things, let me borrow the money and I'll do anything for you.
He's just jealous that I moved on and that I'm not giving him sex anymore.
We were intimate at the time, so I made, sexual innuendos.
When he gave me the money, not the loan, not the borrowing that he's talking about, when he gave it to me, he said, well, I get sex when I want it. And I just snickered.
I do miss her and I do care about her.
When he got scared when we were serious and backed out, I decided I wanted something more serious.
It's one step to getting to know somebody.
And I couldn't be with him.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Skalkos versus Boucher, step forward, please.
Deborah Skalkos is suing 9-year-old Russell Boucher Jr. and his mother, Christy, for damage to her car. Deborah says Russell dinged it with a shopping cart.
Miss Skalkos, is that right?
Yes.
According to your complaint, this young man right here accidentally dented your car with a shopping cart.
Correct.
You believed he and his mother are responsible
Correct.
for the dent. Miss Boucher says neither she nor her son are responsible for the dent on your car. So tell me where you were when this happened and when.
Okay. On the evening of April 20th, I was driving my car in a shopping area, and as I was getting ready to cross a speed bump, this little boy here, he yells, "Watch out," and a shopping cart came crashing into my car. And he says, "I'm sorry, ma'am, it slipped out of my hand." And there were cars behind me, and I wanted to pull into a parking stall to get out and look at my car. And I did, and there was a small dent in my car, and then I tried to find the little boy, and he was gone, and I didn't know what store he went into.
Okay, so you did not see him with the shopping cart in his hand?
I saw him pulling out the shopping carts, and it came crashing into my car.
Madam, I want to know exactly what it is that you saw. Don't make anything up.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes.
I read your complaint, and what you just testified to is different from your complaint. What you just testified to was you saw the little boy.
Yes, I did.
And you saw the cart hit your car.
Correct.
But you never saw his hand on the cart.
Correct.
And he said to you, "I'm sorry, it slipped out of my hand."
Correct.
Is that what you saw?
That's what happened, yes.
Is that what you saw, is my
Yes.
question. So you didn't see him trying to pull the cart out of the long row of carts, and it
Correct.
slipped out of his hand, right?
Right.
All right, because that's what you wrote in your complaint. So that was a mistake. You were mistaken about that.
Yes.
Should not be mistaken about that, because you signed it and you read it. You say, "I noticed a young boy standing on the sidewalk and pulling a shopping cart out of the cart holder." And my question to you is, you didn't see that.
I didn't see him pull the cart out.
All you saw was him standing there,
Yes.
the cart coming towards you,
Correct.
and the cart hitting your car.
Correct.
And then he yelled, "Watch out."
Yes, he did.
And then, according to you, he said, "I'm so sorry, ma'am."
Yes, he did.
He didn't say, "I'm sorry, it slipped out of my hand." That's not what you said in your complaint.
But that is what he said. He said it slipped out of my hand.
Okay. Tell me your name.
Russell Boucher,
Russell. How old are you?
9.
Have you ever watched this program?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How many times have you watched it?
A couple of times.
And I think that your mom is very proud and very supportive of you, right?
Yes.
And I think you're a nice boy.
Thank
So you're going to tell me the truth today about what happened that day, even if it was a little different from what you told your mother. Got it?
Yes.
Because otherwise, bad things are going to happen here.
Okay.
Got it? Okay. Now, your mom went in shopping.
Yes.
And at some point, she told you that she needed another cart.
Yes.
So what did you do?
I went out to get another cart, and when I went out the exit, there was one right next to the exit on the left-hand side. So then I was grabbing the cart, and then I saw it going. I ran after it, and I yelled,
Now, you
"Watch
grabbed
out."
the cart. Stop right there.
Okay.
You grabbed the cart.
Mm-hmm.
How did you grab it? Show me with your hands.
I went like this.
So you grabbed it and you touched the handlebars?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then you tried to wheel it around?
Yes.
And then what happened?
And then when I saw that shopping cart going.
So it slipped out of your hand?
Because like there was two carts. I was grabbing one out of the cart stack, and then there was one on the side of the exit. I was grabbing the one out of the cart stack. I didn't grab it completely. It was halfway out, but it wasn't that one that went. It was the one next to the exit that went.
Okay,
And
but
I
you
went
touched
after
it. Your cart touched it. The one that you were pulling touched it.
Yes.
And then you went inside. When you went inside, did you tell your mother?
Yes.
What did you tell?
Cart that was rolling down. I started running after it, and I couldn't catch it. I said, "Watch out!" And then that's all I told her.
But you didn't tell her about the fact that you were touching the cart with the other cart, and that's when it started to roll down.
No.
All right, she's going to love equipped to do. I certainly have some trouble trying to get those carts out of those cart holders too when we go shopping. You pull one, and all of a sudden you get 30. You don't want 30, all you want is one. But I'm very glad you told the truth today. Okay?
Yes.
Good. Got it, Mrs. Boucher? It's a little different.
Right.
Not a major deal. Good for you.
Thank you.
Told the truth today? If you had told your mother the truth right then and there, we might have avoided this whole problem. So you have to remember that for the future, okay?
Yes.
How much is the cost to fix your car?
$601.
Wow, let me see. What kind of a car do you have?
I have a 2004 Toyota Highlander.
Let me see. You have pictures of the car?
Yes.
There's a ding in it.
Yes, that's it.
There are two dings.
The shopping cart, it dinged it.
Well, I'm going to give you some advice, okay? I also have a very nice car, and somebody last week dinged my brand new car, and we called the ding doctor. And for $150, the ding doctor comes to your house and pulls out the ding. Not 600, 150. And I am sure, where do you live?
In Rancho Cucamonga.
Ah, that's in California.
Yes.
Where every person has 9 cars. I guarantee you, you will find a ding doctor for $300 that will come and pull out these 2 dings in your car. Okay? Not 600. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $300. That's all.
28 on the calendar in the matter of Pasquinelli versus Weathers. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Bird,
Yep.
would you get the defendant a sweater, please, or have her go outside and get herself a sweater?
Okay.
She looks cold to me. We'll be with you in a moment, sir. Oh, that's much better. Much, much better. Mr. Pasquinelli, according to your complaint, you and Miss Weathers lived together for a period of time. You rented an apartment together, you were splitting the bills. And then you were deployed to the Gulf.
Yes.
And it was your arrangement with the defendant that she was going to stay in the apartment, that you would continue to pay half the rent, and she would pay half the rent, and she would pay all the utilities since she was living in the apartment.
Yes.
You returned from the Gulf and found that she had not paid the rent, that the utilities were never paid, and according to you, she owes you a bundle of money.
Yes.
The defendant says that she only lived in the apartment for 5 months after you left, and you agreed to cover her rent because she was a little short, and in addition, she never received the utility bills. They went directly to your parents' house. That's your defense?
Correct.
All right. When did you move into the apartment together, Miss Withers?
November.
What was your financial agreement?
That we would split the rent and the utilities while he was
How much
away.
was your share of the rent?
$675.
Is that correct, sir?
No, it was actually $575.
And how long did you pay the $575?
Up through January, February.
Through January. When were you deployed to the Gulf, sir?
January 17.
Now, what about the utilities? Did you pay half of the utilities up until he went away?
I did.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes, she did.
Now, how did your agreement change, Miss Weathers, when he left for the Gulf and he was no longer living there?
I actually ended up getting a DUI because my truck broke. I had a tire. It was a brand new truck, and he had said that while I was paying my $3,000 lawyer and all my fines and my truck, that I wouldn't have to pay and that we would do it. I would get it back to you eventually.
And what?
That it was until I was able to. I could just pay what I could.
Was there a full sentence there someplace that I didn't hear?
I don't know how to break it down exactly.
Try speaking in a full sentence, you know, with a beginning and a middle and an end and a start and a finish.
I would just pay what I could when I could.
There you go. That wasn't hard, was it?
It was fine.
So how much did you pay?
$300.
When did you deposit $300?
February.
Show me.
I know he has his bank statement he can prove. I even called his mother to get his bank information.
Well, if you called his mother to get his bank information, that means that what you were doing is you were paying the entire rent out of his bank account. Is that right?
Oh, before he left, he gave them checks in full.
Really?
Yes, Your Honor.
How was she supposed to pay her half?
I left her deposit slips from my bank account to deposit it directly into my checking account.
So it was all taken out of your bank, and
Yes.
she never deposited any money. She says in February she deposited $300. I'm just curious. Do you have any indication of that?
I don't, but I will say that's true. She did deposit that money.
So your agreement now, according to you, now that we got a full sentence, Ms. Withers, was that when you could, you would pay him back.
That's correct.
After the $300, when did you start paying him back?
I didn't.
Why?
Because we were talking, and it was just pretty much that whenever I could pay it, I would, and at the time, I couldn't. So eventually, you know, we would just come out in the end. I have an email.
There's a sentence there.
It's coming.
There's a sentence there. I know it's coming.
It's coming. I have an email. There's the sentence from him.
I have an email. That's perfect. 4 words. Sounds just about right.
I thought so. Just basically him saying that he knows that I can't pay it, and eventually we will get through it.
Well, that's pretty much what you said. I don't know what was awesome. Something was awesome before we got to the rent.
Oh, we did thousands of emails, so the headlines were a little wacky.
Oh, I see. And he does indicate here, I know you are trying and doing what you can, and I know you'll get me when you can. So, what are you doing now, Miss Withers?
Now I don't understand.
What are you doing now?
In regard to paying him back,
In regard to your life, what are you doing?
I'm an accountant.
An accountant. That's a good thing. So you deal in numbers.
Correct.
And who do you work for?
I was working for Quintera. Right now I'm in between.
How are you supporting yourself again?
Well, unemployment.
Who is this?
This is Anthony.
Anthony. I assume Anthony has a last name?
Palazzo.
And what does Anthony do?
He's also an accountant. He's my boyfriend.
Do you live together?
Correct.
So now you're paying the bills?
Yes.
Not like that at all. This is...
Just a second. Good for you.
That's not the case. Don't make it look like that, because that's not the case.
Looks like the case to me. Looks like he went overseas. I'm sure it wasn't easy over there, and he's expecting you to do the right thing. Instead of doing the right thing, you got yourself drunk. You had an accident with your car. It's not his fault that you had to pay $3,000 in lawyers and fines and everything else that you had to pay because of your own irresponsible behavior while he was away. And so my question is, when do you expect to start paying him back? He expected you to pay him back.
Actually, before he did this, I'd set it up where I would be paying him $300 a month, and he was okay with it. And the next thing I know, I'm getting this in the mail. Right after we had had a phone conversation, I had given him $100 just for that week because he had come back.
What did she say when she gave you the $100?
She didn't deliver it to me. Her boyfriend did.
And what did he say?
He didn't really say much.
Stand up. Anthony.
Yes.
What did you say when you delivered the $100?
I was just the carrier. I was just dropping it off, gave him the $100.
Good. So you had a conversation with Miss Withers. Is that right?
Correct.
And what did Miss Withers tell you about the $100?
She said that she owed him $100, drop it off after work. And on my way home from work, I just dropped it off, didn't have any conversation.
Anthony.
Yes.
If my girlfriend with whom I was living, or my boyfriend with whom I was living, said to me, here, take $100 to my ex-boyfriend, I owe it to him, I would ask, what for? Unless you're a drone and just do
no,
things
I knew
as you're
she
told.
owed him money.
Okay. Now,
But
what did
she
you...
couldn't
Stop
afford it, though.
speaking.
Okay.
You knew she owed him money.
Yes.
Is that because she told you she owed him money?
Yes.
And how much money did she say she owed him?
She did not tell me exact amount.
What did she tell him she owed the money for?
She didn't tell me either. I just
And
knew.
you didn't ask?
I didn't ask.
You are some inquisitive guy.
Thanks. Thanks.
You're only interested in the important things, right?
That's correct.
Oh, that's right. I'm not going there.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Now, you, Anthony, look like a relatively normal person. So don't play games with me, sir. Do we understand each other?
We do.
You don't want me to embarrass you, do you? I'm capable of it, you know.
And later today,
2:30 in the morning is not an appropriate time to go visiting, sir.
It's a booty call, Your Honor.
What?
It's a booty call. She always calls
Don't
late
be
night.
smart.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jonathan Pasquinelli says former live-in girlfriend Laura Weathers owes for rent and bills while he was deployed in Iraq.
Anthony, what do you do for a living, sir? You're an accountant?
I'm actually a financial advisor.
So you're not a dummy, right?
No, I'm not.
If my girlfriend said to me, I owe my ex-boyfriend money, you would say, what do you owe money for, honey? How much do you owe him? Did you have a payment schedule? What are you going to do? Those are the questions that a normal person would ask. Now, you, Anthony, look like a relatively normal person. Yeah. So don't play games with me, sir. Do we understand each other?
We do.
You don't want me to embarrass you, do you?
No.
Any more than I have done already? I'm capable of it, you know.
Okay.
Now, when did you have a discussion with her about how much and what she owed him the money for?
We really never discussed how much she owed. I just knew that she owed him money, and that was it. I didn't really want to know how much. I didn't want to get involved because I didn't want to get in the middle between money because I know how people act around money, so.
You didn't want to be responsible.
Correct.
Now, Anthony.
Yes.
That's smart.
Thank you.
Because if you say, how much do you owe, and she tells you, the temptation might be there to say, let me give it to you because I don't want you to have any connection with him anymore.
Correct.
So you didn't do that.
I didn't want to know. And
why didn't you want to know, Anthony?
Because I didn't want to know how much it was. It could have been a lot, it could have been a little. I didn't want to know.
Well, you said I didn't want to know 3 times, and so I'm asking you, why didn't you want to know? Weren't you curious?
No.
Weren't you a little curious?
I was not. Not at all.
When were you deployed, sir? In January?
January 17.
When did you get home?
July 31st.
So she was there ostensibly for 5 months, is that right?
I don't know when she left.
I don't care when she left. She was there for 5 months.
Fine.
That she owes you money for. And she owes you $2,875. Now, tell me about the utility bills.
When I got home, I had a $617 gas and electric bill.
Can I see it, please? What were you doing there?
I wasn't even there.
You were making wine? What were you doing?
I have no idea.
Actually, this is gas and electric also. And these are unopened. Just, I didn't know if...
Can I see the unopened ones,
yes.
please?
This is actually cable, which I'm not allowed to have cable in San Diego anymore because the bill's never paid.
You live at 9215?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and these were sent to 9215? Well, she paid you $300, so I'm deducting that from the $28.75, leaving $25.75. And here is a bill. Ooh, past due, date mailed, May 3rd. You would still be there, right?
No, I moved out in the beginning, of May. I wasn't there.
Well, this is mailed on May 3rd, so you owe $574.27 for this. Cable.
I tried disconnecting that because, number one, I'm not home. Number two, we have no computer, which we needed internet for. And because my name wasn't on it, I couldn't disconnect it.
Why didn't you email him?
Name's on the bill.
Shh. Why didn't you email him and tell him?
That's the time.
Listen to me. Why didn't you email him and tell him to cancel it?
I did. I had emailed him.
Show me.
I don't have that email.
Anthony.
Yes.
Where were you working in May?
In May, I was working at Quintera.
And where was she working?
Quintera. That's how I met him.
So that's how you met,
yes.
May. When did she move in with you, Anthony?
I would say...
In July.
Jump! Didn't ask you. I asked him.
Beginning of June.
So from May, whatever, when you moved out until you moved in with Anthony here, where were you living?
I was just staying at friends as I was going back and forth because it was closer to my house.
What house?
Or not my house, but to my work. It was just easier because I lived pretty far from work.
Ever been married, Anthony?
No.
Don't do this one.
You getting the drift?
I do.
You do get, I know that you get it, Anthony. I'm looking at your eyes.
She went wine tasting and forgot to pay the bill in February.
I didn't go wine
Listen.
tasting.
You told
Sir, listen to me.
There was a $69 late payment on that bill.
$3,688.
Sounds good to me.
Very good. And say, who is this young lady?
This is my sister.
Very nice young lady, very nice. Thank you. Say, thank you. I got home safely, right?
Yes.
I didn't make any big mistakes over there, and I didn't make any big mistakes over here. Got it?
Got it.
That's all. Thank you.
Parties are executed. You may step out.
I felt it was falling apart the second week we moved in together.
It's over, it's done with, and we don't need to start talking schmack.
I just hate that he has such a big heart and he was taken advantage of.
They said there's food left out. They said it was just disgusting looking. They said it was unfit for living.
He's emailing me now, trying to break us up.
It's over, it's done with. I just want him out of my life. I want to just be done with it, through.
She's nuts.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lane versus Eberspacher. Step forward.
27-year-old Lisa Lane is suing her ex-boyfriend, 27-year-old Scott Eberspacher, for the cost to fix her bedroom window. Lisa claims Scott was trying to wake her up by throwing rocks.
All right, Lisa, how long were you dating Scott here when he made this nocturnal visit to your house?
About a month and a half.
Who do you live with?
I live with myself and my son.
And Scott was supposed to be over, according to your complaint, at about 10 o'clock that evening. Or he's supposed to be over that evening, and he shows up at what time, Scott?
I got there around approximately 2:20 in the morning.
Why?
There was no set time, Your Honor.
How old is her child?
He would be 4.
There was no set time?
He was supposed to be
2:30
there
in the morning is not an appropriate time to go visiting, sir.
It's a booty call, Your Honor.
What?
It's a booty call. She always calls
Don't
late
be
night.
smart.
He's supposed to be
Just
there
a
before
second.
9.
Don't be... Listen, when I speak to you, you'll answer me.
Right.
According to your complaint, he was supposed to be there at 10. He wasn't there at 10. You locked the doors. He came 2 o'clock in the morning, rang the bell, whatever. You didn't answer. So he went to your window and he threw a rock at your window to get your attention. He got your attention. He broke the window. He came in. You spent the night together. Later on, you said, I want him to pay for the window.
I didn't know the window was broken.
All
until the
right.
next
Later
morning.
on, they found the window broken and you want him to pay for the window. That's what the case is.
I have a videotape showing a scenario of how he did it.
I don't care how he did it. You're not dating him anymore?
No.
What does that mean? That was a hesitation.
No, I do not date him anymore. He's too irresponsible.
So you haven't... When was the last time you saw him, Miss Lane? Is not an answer, madam.
I don't remember. It was like a month or so ago.
And when did this incident happen?
It was after the window was broke, because we joked about it, because he didn't really mean to break the window.
When did he break the window?
In April.
Okay. She says you broke the window, sir.
I didn't break the window, Your Honor.
I have the text message where he says he'll pay for it.
Oh. Is that dated?
Yes.
Okay. Show it to Bird, because he is
'Cause
my electronic...
I
I'm speaking. He is my electronic genius.
And so, if you just want to give that to the judge, then.
No, he doesn't give it to me. He's my electronic eyes and ears.
Scott Gold, you want me to find, but I say that this is why you pay association and insurance. I will probably never talk to you again if you want to go that route, so it's up to you.
What's the date of that?
May
Just go to the date.
May 29th.
Very good. And did you fix the window?
Yes, I did. And I have pictures of when it was broken.
I'd like to see the picture.
And I have the actual rocks, too. Here's the receipt, and here's the pictures when it was broken. Do you want the rocks?
You want the rocks?
No. Stick the rocks back where they were. These are the best pictures you could take.
I took a video flicks on my camera phone, and that's the best that we could come up with for a still shot. But I have the videotape right here that shows...
I'm not interested in it.
Okay.
April 27th at 2:20 a.m. is when I went over to Lisa's house. And at that time, when I did, in fact, I tossed a ball, and then I tossed a very tiny pebble the size of a dime. Did not break the window. Matter of fact, the next morning when she had walked out, we walked out together, there was no broken glass or anything to my appearance or her appearance.
That's not English, to my appearance or to her appearance.
Okay. To my knowledge and to her knowledge, there was nothing broken.
Don't tell me about her knowledge. So your knowledge, there
To
was
my
no,
knowledge, there was
no
nothing
broken window. Well,
Correct.
then your knowledge is limited. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $360. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may, Judge, you may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Mr. Elmore, the defendant is your sister.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to your complaint, you loaned her the money to make her mortgage payment for about a year.
Yes, ma'am. It was about 10 months, probably. Yes, ma'am.
And you loaned her that money with the understanding that if she did not pay you back, the title to the mobile home would be put in your name.
Yes, ma'am. Either or, some kind of assurance that I'd get something out of it.
And Ms. Padilla says that there was never an agreement that you paid her mortgage, but that was like rent because you were, in fact, living there. Now, explain to me how it came about that your sister and your mother were together in this mobile home.
Well, I moved to Mexico, and after I moved there, my sister had my mother move in with her. I was down there about 5.5 to 6 months. I came back in like July.
Where did you stay when you came back to work in July of 2004?
For the first probably month and a half, I stayed at her trailer.
So from, let's say, July and August.
In August, I was in California, in San Francisco.
When in August?
The 1st of August, I got a job traveling, working in refineries.
So you spent 1 month with your sister and your mother?
Probably about that.
Is that about right?
I wasn't there during that timeout.
Who was there?
She was there, man.
All right, so you say she was there. So you lived there for a month in July. When did you have this conversation with her about the mortgage?
I'd say it was in June, the end of June.
So before you moved in?
Yeah, I was still in Mexico before we had this conversation.
So in Mexico, she called you and said what?
That she's a couple of months behind on her payment. They're about to repossess it, and she moved my mom in with her, and I didn't want my mom to be, stuck out because she didn't pay her bills.
So
I came back, and I got a job building swimming pools and started paying, And
okay.
she said that she wasn't working because she was waiting on a workman's comp thing to come through, which after a while,
don't speak to him. At my stage in life, I can only hear one person talk at a time.
Yes,
otherwise,
ma'am.
I get confused.
But after a while, waiting on her workman's comp or whatever to start up so she could pay her own bills, it got kind of old. And she was quite a bit behind, about $1,100, I believe.
You were living in the trailer for the month of July.
Yes, ma'am.
So I would assume, at least for the month of July, you were going to pay some rent.
Yes, ma'am, but this month of July, I was paying the month of May's rent. I was paying her back payment.
If you paid her the back payment for the month of May, how much did you pay for rent in July when you were living there?
Well, I never had a set payment, I guess I would owe for that month of rent, but...
I guess you might.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you were working, right?
But see, none of that... Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
You don't think that she should pay for a time when you were living there and not paying rent?
Yes, ma'am, but I was paying her bills too, evidently, because she was not working. She had no income coming in whatsoever.
How much in total did you pay towards this trailer?
Trailer and utilities.
Trailer.
Trailer, I don't really have an exact on just a trailer, but I would just send money orders, and whatever they put it on, that was that.
That was nice of you. I don't hear anything about a loan.
Yes, ma'am, that's what all this was a loan.
Well, that's what you're telling me, sir. That's not what they tell me.
Yes, ma'am, but I would not have come back, to pay all her bills. I was living in motels this entire time.
Not in July.
No, I got that job in August.
Not in July.
Or the past 5 months.
Listen to me. Shh. Where have you been living the last 5 months?
A couple of months I was there, but then she got mad because I wouldn't let her use my cell phone, so she told me to get out of her house. She ended up calling the police to have me removed.
Miss Padilla?
Yes, ma'am.
But anyway, my roommate here, he was having to loan me money because I was sending all my checks
I'm
in.
talking about the last 5 months, Mr. Elmore. Where were you living?
I've been living with him for the last month and a half. And a little while I had to live in a shed next door to the house, believe it or not. The night after she called the police, they made me leave and told me I couldn't come back. I stayed in the shed for about 3 weeks.
Mr. Elmore, you and I are not coming together on the same wavelength.
Yes, ma'am.
Explain to me why you have a case of a loan.
Well, because
all of those things.
I paid off her trailer payment. Her trailer got paid for, and it all came from me, ma'am. Over $4,000 worth, and I was not living there.
Oh, Mr. Elmore.
I didn't have it separated.
Mr. Elmore.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have an argument with your sister?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
What was the argument about, Mr. Elmore?
It started over the cell phone. She asked to borrow my cell phone, I wouldn't let her.
Why?
I don't know.
You didn't feel like letting her?
Yes, ma'am.
So
no, I had no reason, but I just told her no. So
fine.
She told me to get out of her house, and I told her no. I said, I paid all this. So she said it's in her name, and...
So she said it's in her name, get out of my house.
Yeah, exactly. I refused to leave. Well, she called the police.
And what happened when the police got there?
They made me leave. I left.
Is that when you filed this lawsuit?
It was a few days after that, when I was living in that shed. You know, I was watching the TV, and I just happened to see your show, and afterwards I called, you know.
What is your last name?
Elmore.
Miss Elmore, who do you live with now?
I live in the trailer with my daughter.
What about her?
She has moved into the trailer with me and my daughter. She lived there.
So that when I ask you a question, I expect you to give me a full answer. You live in the trailer with your daughter and this lady?
Yes.
Who
yes,
else
ma'am.
lives there?
Just the three of us now.
Who pays the bills?
All three of us. Yes, ma'am.
Now, who was paying the bills, say, last July, August, September, October, November? Was your son paying the bills?
My son paid a lot. He did. I have never denied that, but I was paying too. It wasn't just Mike paying.
And your son contributed, according to him, some $4,000 over a 13-month period. Is that right?
Actually, it was more than that, but I've lost several receipts.
Now, Mr. Elmore,
Yes, ma'am.
would you be here today if it wasn't for this cell phone incident, sir?
Yes, ma'am. It'd been going through my mind for a long time, you know, because I wanted my money back.
Well, you're not going to get all your money back, sir. You
I'm
lived
sure.
there for
I'm aware of that.
You
but-
lived there for 4 months.
Yes, ma'am. I'm aware of that.
Ma'am, he came back in March, and he did not leave again until the end of August, the last week of August.
March, April, May, June, July. So it's 6 months.
Not the last week of August. It was about the middle of August.
So the date on the last receipt I had was 5/5 of 05.
Just a
So
second.
that's May. That's not March, ma'am.
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you saying your mother is a liar? She says you were there March, April, May, June, July, and part of August. So is what you're telling me that your mother is lying to me?
Yes, ma'am. I'm saying I was not there then.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What you're annoyed about is that your sister told you to leave, so you got annoyed. And then you had nothing to do, so you went and watched me on television. Is that aha?
And later today,
Did he drink a little bit?
No, he never drank.
Never?
He never drank during our relationship. I drank.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. James Elmore says his sister, Shauna Padilla, owes for loans to make her mortgage payments. Shauna is countersuing for damages to her property.
Now, tell me, in March, he came back for how long?
It was about 2 weeks, I believe. And then he left out for the job. He never actually got to work on that job. He got sent back right after that.
And when did he come back?
I probably at the end of March.
So was he living in the trailer in April?
Yes, ma'am.
May?
Yes, ma'am.
June?
Yes, ma'am.
July?
Yes, ma'am.
And part of August?
No, ma'am,
Yes,
I was
ma'am.
not.
And part of August?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the previous July, he was there when he came back from Mexico?
Yes, ma'am.
For 1 month?
Yes.
Miss Judy, she says that I was there before then. When like I said, I got the date on the first receipt that I paid is 7/14 of 04. I was paying a May 15th bill because when she called me, she was
listen
3
to me.
months back.
Listen to me, Mr. Elmore.
She got her days confused, ma'am.
No, Mr. Elmore, listen to me carefully, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Your sister does not deny, nor will she deny to me today, that she called you and said, I've gotten behind in my bills.
I didn't call him, ma'am.
Or contacted him, or whatever, and said, I need some help. She's not denying that you gave her some help because the mortgage was behind. What your family is saying to you is, you lived there for a longer period than you've indicated to me today, not just a couple of days, which you say in your complaint, you know, that your employer pays for your motel and that's where you were living, that you were living there for a period of at least, according to both your mother, who I believe, and your sister, July, part of March, April, May, June, July, and part of August. So at least 6.5 months. And for that, living there for all of that time, you contributed $4,200. That's pretty reasonable. You have a roof over your head, you have gas, you have electric, you have food, you have whatever else it takes. And if you helped your family out for another 3.5 months, you don't come in here and bother me about that. What you're annoyed about is that your sister, for whatever reason, after you said she couldn't use your cell phone, told you to leave. So you got annoyed, and then you had nothing to do, so you went and watched me on television and said, aha! I'm going to go and file a small claims court case. Mr. Elmore,
Well,
Mr. Elmore, get a life. Case is dismissed.
Oh.
I need to excuse you. May step out.
Excuse me.
I have a counterclaim.
It's dismissed.
Okay.
If he bothered you, annoyed you for a year, and you let him bother you and annoy you for the year, that makes you not too smart.
I moved out of the state to get
Very
away from him.
good. That's exactly what you should do.
She got a free trailer, that's what happened.
I paid plenty for that trailer.
She got a heck of a ride off of me.
I have also done many, many things to contribute towards his welfare growing up.
My mother was there, you know? I mean, she wasn't doing nothing to help him.
It breaks my heart.
Don't trust no family member.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Evans versus Fry Leach. Step forward, please.
24-year-old Brandy Evans is suing Kathleen Fry and her ex-boyfriend, Patrick Leach, for damage to her car. Brandy claims Patrick was riding his bike when he crashed into her parked vehicle.
Miss Fry, are you the neighbor of the plaintiff?
And not of the plaintiff, of the plaintiff's witness.
And this is your boyfriend?
Ex-boyfriend, yes.
How long has he been your ex-boyfriend?
Since about last November.
And how long was he your boyfriend?
About 18 years.
That took you a long time to decide he wasn't the right one. Huh?
Sometimes you don't think.
Was there any particular reason why you terminated the relationship?
We just weren't getting along anymore.
Did he drink a little bit?
No, he'd never drank.
Never?
Before we started going out, he drank, but he never drank during our relationship. I drank.
Now, you were riding a bicycle.
Yes, ma'am.
With your girlfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
Where had you been riding?
We usually rode 10 to 15 miles a night, just around our neighborhood and just around our block and so on and so forth.
And at what time of the evening did you return to the house?
It was probably between 8 and 8:30 in the evening.
So it was dark?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you always ride at night?
Yes, we did. It
You
was
have
mostly
lights
at
on
night.
your bikes?
No, we don't.
Are you supposed to?
Yes, we are.
Probably.
Probably, yeah.
Do you wear a helmet?
Yes, I do.
For what?
Safety reasons, in case somebody pulls out in front of me and
Right.
Right.
That's why you have lights on bikes if you're going to be riding at night. And so tell me what happened, Mr. Leach.
Our street was very dark. It has no street lights. I was pedaling, and her car is the color of night. It blended in, and it was parked, if I could show you on the diagram, it was parked probably a little farther back, but it was, to me, it was illegally parked. And it was on a corner. I was pedaling, and I looked up, and next thing you know, under the tree, next thing you know, I hit the front end of the car.
Okay, so Mr. Leach, we are talking now about certain things that you can do nothing about, because as night follows day, that's science. And in science, it's going to get dark outside. So when you're driving a vehicle, what they do is when a vehicle is operating, they put lights on the car so that you can see where you're going after night falls, right? So it's not the night's fault that you hit the car. Now, cars can be painted in many colors. It's not the car's fault that it was painted the color of night, right?
Correct.
So it can't be the car's fault that it was that color. Now, how long do you think this big tree has been living on the corner?
I couldn't tell you.
10 years?
Since before he moved in.
Yeah.
The tree didn't move, right?
Correct.
So it can't be the tree's fault that you hit her car. And the last thing that you said was her car, you believe, was parked illegally.
True.
But the car didn't move.
Correct.
There was only one thing that was moving. Mr. Leach, that would be you.
I totally agree.
Now, Miss Evans, tell me, you were awakened to the alarm going off in your car?
No, we were watching a movie. I was over at my friend's house.
And what
It was
happened?
around 11 p.m., and I heard my alarm going off.
So the alarm did go off as a result of being hit?
Yes. So I walked out, and they weren't near my car. They were walking away from my car. And I walked down and looked at my fog light, and my fog light was broken on the ground. And I walked back up halfway to the driveway, and that's when Kathy stopped me.
Had you known her before that evening?
No.
So you never met her before?
No.
She walked up to you and said?
And said, we were riding our bikes, and my boyfriend hit your car. And I looked over at him, and he was laying on the grass with his bike.
That's not true.
And
shh, Mr. Leach. Shh, Mr. Leach, look at me.
And Kathy said she was going to run and go get her information, and that she did not want to go through the police. She did not want to go through insurance. That she wanted to pay cash. And she walked back over and said he had some to drink, and that here's her information to put estimates in her mailbox, and that she would get back to me. And she gave me her number, She gave me her work phone, her cell phone.
Miss Fry, did you write down your telephone number, your work number?
I gave her my business card.
What did you give her your business card for?
For the purpose of, I had walked over and explained that he had hit the car and that he was lying on the ground because he had hurt himself when the bike hit the car. And I said, I will get you the information and you can get estimates and the two of you can work it out. I brought her the information back over. I never stated that he was drinking because he wasn't. And I never stated that I would pay her cash because I am not the one that hit the car.
What do you want to say?
I was standing there and listened to her state that she would pay Brandy in cash to settle the matter.
Tell me your last name.
Curran.
How long had you been neighbors, Miss Curran?
I've lived there approximately 6 years.
Okay. Mr. Leach.
Yes, ma'am.
There is no reason why Miss Fry should take responsibility for this.
Exactly.
So if the court were going to enter a judgment, it would have to be a judgment against you.
Correct.
So that, Miss Fry, you may sit down. Thank you. Now, sir, you're there all on your own. In 10 seconds, give me your best shot as to why you're not responsible for this.
I never said I was not responsible. I took the car. But what I am disputing is they brought over estimates for $1,400 for the car, which to me was a little outrageous. We told them to get another estimate in a local place. They've done work on our cars before, and they were more reasonable. They'd probably given a reasonable rate. They never went there.
Mr. Leach, let me stop.
Sure.
A second. Is it that you don't like the amount of money that she's asking for because you believe it's excessive, or that you don't believe you're responsible?
The amount of money, and then we had an estimate for $1,400 and $1,600. Now it's $1,800.
Well, now she's going to show me the estimates.
I have
and the photographs.
The first estimate that I gave them, that was for the $1,400. When I gave it to her, she asked me to go and get another one with their body, a place, and it shows it was only a month afterwards, not even a month after the accident, that I have for that quote.
Just a second. What was the name of the body shop where you wanted them to go?
Boulevard.
This is one of those from Boulevard?
Yes, and that's my third one.
Can I see it, please?
We never got that one.
We never got those.
Shh. I don't care whether you did or not. Now I have them. So am I correct? Boulevard gives you $621.72?
Mm-hmm. That was just the paint that they said. They didn't say anything about the hood. That is, I have pictures of my hood and where it's not aligned with the other side from where he fell on it. And
Your Honor, I did not fall on the hood.
I have your handlebar marks on my hood.
Well, there is damage to the hood. All right, anything you want to say?
I just, I want to know. She got an estimate from Boulevard, for just paint. Well, you know what? If to me, if I'm going to get an estimate for the body work, I'm just not going to ask for paint for the $600 and something. I'm going to say, I'm going to say, hey, it's just, I need the body work done. I don't understand that.
I went in and asked for an estimate, and that's what they gave me. I didn't ask them just to do paint.
Did you ask them for an estimate to fix it or to paint it?
To fix it. I said I needed it fixed.
The damage to this car can't be done for $600. She's got something wrong with the hood of the car that's going to have to be pulled out, painted if it's going to be done right. The $1,300 is a reasonable estimate. Okay, judgment for the plaintiff and the...
This is case number 201 on the calendar in the matter of McDaniel versus Julius. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, ladies. Have a seat, please.
Ms. McDaniel, the defendant is your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
Your complaint is really a simple one, and your complaint is that you made 2 loans to your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And she has not paid you back. Your daughter says that these were not loans, they were really gifts. But the matter becomes more complicated because of the nature of the loans that you claim to your daughter. Miss Julius, you had a daughter who was murdered.
Yes, ma'am.
When was she murdered?
September 24th. She was found dead in her room.
In your home?
In her home.
Has the perpetrator of that murder ever been found?
There are 3 people apprehended as of right now for first-degree murder.
How old was your daughter?
17.
According to you, Miss McDaniel, you went to where your daughter was living, and your daughter did not have money for a burial.
That's right.
You agreed to loan her the money for the burial.
Yes, ma'am.
Subsequently, your daughter, who was not happy staying in the same house where her daughter was murdered, which is quite understandable because people had not been apprehended at that time, asked if she could relocate. And you agreed to loan her some money.
Yes, ma'am.
So that she could relocate. What was the extent of those 2 sums of money? The funeral was how much?
$4,582.27.
And how much did you advance your daughter to relocate?
$1,487.68.
The matter becomes more complicated because at some point, Ms. Julius, you ascertained that there was a crime victims compensation that you could apply for.
The DA.
The DA?
From Carroll County.
Told you what?
Told me that there was a victims fund relief.
And what was it for?
It was for expenses for Jessica's death. And I have been making payments.
Just a second. Expenses for Jessica's death?
Yes.
Which included her burial?
Which my mother gave as a gift.
Listen to me very carefully.
Which included, yes.
So the state of Tennessee had a fund which provided for the survivors of victims of violent crime to give them money so that they could pay for burial?
Yes.
And other related expenses?
Yes.
You applied for that?
Yes.
And you got a check?
Yes.
How much was the check?
One was $5,300 and the other one was $1,024.
Can I see the paperwork surrounding those two checks, please?
There was a few gas expenses.
Can I see the paperwork for the...
This is exactly what
Bert, I'll take a look
but
at
I
it.
have more different, I have receipts to where I have been paying my mother.
Just a second. They paid you $5,307.27 for the funeral. And then there were other related expenses, moving expenses. Are you telling me that you have proof that you gave some of this money to your mother?
Yes, I have.
I'd like to see it, please.
I have receipts. Here, this is it for money orders. She told me that her payments were $70 and $40. I talked to my sister Gail that's standing next to her over the telephone. She was in California. I talked to her and she said, have you been giving her money? I said, yeah. She told me $70 and $40 on her credit cards. And that's exactly, I've been giving her a little bit more.
Well, I see what you're talking about. You gave her $30, $40.
And it started on 11/3, excuse me.
I understand that, but these are very small amounts of money. When did you get the check from the state?
In April. She told me it was on credit cards, and as long as I was helping her out, there was no lump sum that I was supposed to give her. She knew I would have to go home. I have a headstone to purchase for my daughter, which is $910, and I'm working at a minimum wage job. I moved out because it was so unbearable to live with her in her house.
Let's go back a second. You got this money, which is about $6,500. What did you do with it?
I've been living on it. And also, I have money set aside to buy Jessica's stone and money set aside to go home.
Well,
because
so
I cannot live...
Just a second. You just told me that the stone is $900.
$910.
Fine. And did you order it?
I've already talked to...
Yes. Don't play with me.
Yes.
Did you order it?
Yes.
Did you pay for it?
Not as of yet.
Why not?
Because she started this lawsuit.
What's the name of the company that's going to do the stone?
Memorial Gardens.
Well, you certainly have $900 for the stone because you got $6,500. And my problem with you, Miss Julius, is because this is not a very difficult case. Whether your mother said to you, as you allege in your answer, that's the least I can do to give you the money for the funeral, right? That's what she alleges you said to her, or not. The good people of the state of Tennessee did not provide this money for you to live on. The good people of the state of Tennessee wanted to ensure that your daughter had an appropriate burial. So you cannot take their money and do what you want with it. You have to take their money and pay for her funeral. That's what it was earmarked for by the state. Because whether you and your mother, according to you, you colluded to defraud the state by her signing papers that said she's going to pay me back, and she really didn't mean that you were going to pay her back, that's a fraud on the state. I can't sanction that. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your family has had sufficient amount of sadness to last for a lifetime. And even if your mother is awarded the $5,000, you still have money left over for the headstone. And then some.
And later today...
When they got pulled over, there were drugs in the car. Whose drugs were they?
They were his drugs.
What kind of drugs were found in the car?
Marijuana, pills, and methamphetamines.
Whose were they?
Hers.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bourbon McDaniel is suing her daughter, Glenda Julius, for the cost of her granddaughter's funeral. Glenda says Her mother is heartless.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm working in a dry cleaners. I'm having trouble dealing with the public.
What kind of work did you do before your daughter's death?
I was working in a convenience store, third shift.
Your mother paid for the funeral. According to the claim that you put into the criminal injuries compensation claim for Jessica Dawn Julius, the funeral was $5,307.27. That's what you told the state, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And the funeral was actually $45.82?
The difference was donations from the school where Jessica went.
What?
I have a paper that states each and every one that gave donation to the funeral.
Can I see it, please?
Yes.
The family that Jessica was, Lisa Stevens' family, were there and willing, and the whole town was willing to help out with this. My mother is the one that wanted me to move. I left everything I owned.
Listen to me. I'm not talking about the moving. I'm talking about the fact that you cannot take this money and live on it. I have to make a judgment whether the person who actually paid for the funeral, and that's your mother, or you who did not pay for the funeral, are the rightful recipients of this money from the state, which is earmarked for your daughter's burial expenses. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
And there were some very nice people from the town who also sent checks in for the funeral. But that's not the issue. The issue really is a very simple one. Whether your mother, at the time that your daughter died, and I believe that she probably did, say to you, this is a terrible time. I don't want you to worry about the funeral. I'll take care of it. Because that's what a parent does. But then when you found out that there was a possibility, because you said that the district attorney told you that there was a fund, that was after your daughter was buried, correct?
Yes.
So after your mother laid out that money, and probably would not have sought to recoup it because you have limited circumstances, that'd be a fair statement. But after she found out that you were going to get this money from the state for the funeral, the right thing for you to do was to give it back to her.
I've been giving her close to $1,500.
No. That
so
may
far.
have been fine, Miss Julius, giving her $30, giving her $70, until you got $6,500. Once you got $6,500, you had to say, Mom, clean up the credit card, pay it off, because that's what this check was supposed to be used for.
Yes,
Do we
ma'am.
understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Let's not pursue this any further. Your family has had sufficient amount of sadness to last for a lifetime. So you have the money, and even if your mother is awarded the $5,000, you still have money left over for the headstone, and then some. Right? Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I love my daughter. Love my granddaughter.
It was a gift to bury Jessica.
She's using it very foolishly, but she'll have to live with that for the rest of her life.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Savage versus Balding.
Nancy Savage is suing the mother of her grandson, Melissa Balding, for bail money. Nancy says Melissa and her son were arrested on drug charges.
All right, everybody listen very carefully, because this is a long saga to get to a simple question. Miss Savage, I assume this is your son.
Yes, it is.
This is his girlfriend.
Yes, it is.
Ex-girlfriend.
True.
They have a child together.
True.
She doesn't have custody of the child. He doesn't have custody of the child. One of your other children has custody of the child, because both of these two people were, in somebody's opinion, not capable of taking care of this child. According to your complaint, some time ago, your son was driving your car with her in the car. When did that happen?
About a year ago, a little over a year ago.
Let's have a month.
April 30th, 2004.
He's not your only child, is he?
No.
Perfect. It's a perfect example of don't put all your eggs in one basket. When they got pulled over, there were drugs in the car. I assume, Miss Savage, that they didn't belong to you.
Right.
So the two of them got hauled into court and your car was impounded. According to you, you bailed out your son and Miss Balding, and you want your bail money, which was how much?
$750.
You also would like her to pay for the towing fees on the car and the impound fees.
The impound fees.
That she's not going to pay for because the Hulk over here was the one driving your car, right?
Yes.
And you gave him permission to drive your car, I assume. So I would suggest you get the impound and towing fees back from him. By the way, have you paid your mother back for your bail?
Yes, I have. Except for $50 of it.
What about the towing fees?
No, I haven't.
Where were the drugs found?
They were found behind the glove box, stashed.
Whose drugs were they?
They were his drugs.
Had you used drugs that day?
No.
Were you under the influence of drugs that
No.
day? Were you under the influence of alcohol that day?
That was possible.
What?
Yes, ma'am.
What time of the day was this?
Around 12 o'clock in the afternoon, because I was laying out at my pool.
What time had you started drinking?
Around 12 o'clock.
He's shaking his head no. I tend to believe him. Were any charges ultimately brought against you?
Yes, ma'am.
For what?
That I'm not quite sure about them, but I have this paper right here stating that it was all dropped and dismissed.
Let me see that, please.
I have on the bail slip that I got her what her charges were.
Can I see that, please?
And she has one more charge than my son was, which I believe is being under the influence. She admitted to the police that she had taken somas.
What is that?
It's a muscle relaxer. Not that day, but previous.
Now tell me about the call you received, Miss Savage, from the defendant about the bail.
First of all, one of their friends notified me that their car had been pulled over, so I went to where it was because it was less than a mile from my house. And I asked the officer if I could get my car, and he said no, there were drugs involved, and one of them was under the influence, and so they were going to impound it. So I asked him where my grandchild was, and the officer went over and asked Melissa, and she told him it was at her apartment. So I told him I would take responsibility and go get Brian and have him stay with me.
Who was watching him?
Some of their friends.
Go ahead.
So I went and brought my grandson home, and I was trying to calm him and everything. He was very upset.
How old is he?
2.5.
Go ahead.
I told him that Mommy and Daddy were having car problems, and when their car was fixed, that they would come and get him, and he told me that I should take him to where they were. So Melissa started calling. The first call, she was like, you have to get me out of here. I can't stay in here. You need to get me out. I'll do anything. Whatever it is, I'll pay you back. Just get me out. And that was the first of one of many calls. I probably got between 15 and 20 calls that night, and every time she called, she woke my grandson up. And
what about your son?
He called me once.
Did you go and bail him out?
I bailed both of them out.
No. He called you once?
Once.
When did you bail him out?
Steve got released around 2 o'clock that afternoon, and Melissa got released 8:30, 9 o'clock that morning because there was a woman in jail that Melissa had identified for another crime.
Oh, just a second. This incident happened at 12 noon.
No, the incident happened at like 10 o'clock that night that they were pulled over.
Yes. Oh, so she had been drinking from 12 noon until 10 o'clock at night, according to her. Oh, I didn't understand that. Now I understand. Okay, and during that whole time, she called you numerous times.
She called me about 15 to 20 times, and she told me that they wanted to test her for drugs and she wasn't going to give them a urine sample, and that when she had to go to the bathroom that she would have the girls in the waiting cell stand around her so they didn't know that she was urinating.
Step up. What happened to your case?
My case was dropped before hers was.
What kind of drugs were found in the car?
Marijuana, pills, and methamphetamines.
Whose were they?
Hers.
That's interesting. Not yours.
The marijuana was mine. I admitted to the cop when we were stopped. He asked if there were any drugs in the vehicle, and the marijuana was in my pocket. And I handed that to him, and he found the other drugs when we asked for my license and registration. When she opened the glove box door, he saw a container that everything else was in.
Who are you?
Her mother.
Step up. Why do you think your daughter didn't call you to bail her out?
Because I taught her not to call me and bail any of my children out until they have gone to their first preliminary hearing.
She was in Ohio.
Just a second.
They'll possibly lower the bail or drop the
What's your last name?
Daly.
Miss Daly, how many children do you have that have been arrested?
Oh, this one.
So when you said you've taught all your children not to call you until after they have had their first bail hearing, you were really referring just to her?
No, I raised 4 daughters as a single parent.
Yes.
And I worked in law enforcement for 30 years.
Yes.
And I just informed them that if they got into a situation where they ended up in jail, I would hope this wouldn't happen, but I just wanted to make sure that they knew what to do.
How many years have you spent in law enforcement?
All told, 20.
Between us, we have more than a half a century in law enforcement, Miss Daly. How many children do you have?
4.
Between us, we have 9 children. Did you ever have a conversation and tell your children, if you ever get arrested, make sure you wait until your first bail hearing because your bail will probably be lowered? Do you remember having that conversation when you told them about, don't talk to strangers, don't go near people's vans? You ever remember having that conversation with your 4 children?
Negative.
Me neither. So you want to go through this one more time with me? Because unless you're kooky, because I never heard of a mother, even in law enforcement, sitting her children down and saying, listen, never talk to strangers, be home at midnight, don't give any strangers your phone number, and if you ever get arrested, I want you to wait until your first bail hearing before you call me because your bail may be reduced. Were you happy to get out of jail?
Yes, ma'am.
Pay her the money. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $750. That's all.
Parties are excused.
Các em thân mến, chào mừng các em đến với buổi học ngày hôm nay của cô nhé. Ở video mới này thì chúng ta sẽ cùng nhau giải quyết một bài toán về hình học. Đấy là chúng ta tính diện tích của hình vuông. Khi mà chúng ta biết được là hình vuông đó có chu vi bằng bằng hình chữ nhật mà có chiều rộng là 6 và chiều dài gấp đôi chiều rộng. Ở đây chúng ta có thể tính chu vi của hình, hoặc là chúng ta tính theo từng bước, chúng ta có thể tính chiều dài của hình chữ nhật. Chiều dài ở đây sẽ là 6 nhân với 2, đúng không nào? Bằng 12 cm. Ở đây chúng ta cũng có thể tính được chu vi của hình chữ nhật. Chu vi hình chữ nhật sẽ bằng chiều dài cộng với chiều rộng nhân cho 2. 18 nhân 2 bằng 36. Ta có theo đề bài đó là chu vi hình chữ nhật bằng chu vi hình vuông, đúng không? Là bằng 36 cm. Ở đây chúng ta sẽ tìm được cạnh của hình vuông là chu vi của hình vuông chính là A nhân 4, đúng không? Vậy cạnh của hình vuông sẽ là 36 chia 4 sẽ bằng 9 cm. Từ đây chúng ta có tìm được diện tích hình vuông không nhỉ? Khi biết cạnh rồi thì đương nhiên chúng ta sẽ dễ. Chúng ta sẽ tìm được diện tích của hình vuông là diện tích ở đây sẽ là 9 nhân 9 bằng 81 cm vuông, và đáp số sẽ là bài toán này là bài toán khá là đơn giản. Các em chỉ cần hiểu rõ được các công thức tính của một hình chữ nhật có cạnh là A, B thì chu vi sẽ bằng A cộng B nhân 2. Diện tích sẽ là A nhân B. Còn đối với hình vuông có cạnh là A thì chu vi sẽ là bằng A nhân 4 và diện tích sẽ bằng A nhân với A. Từ đó chúng ta sẽ giải quyết bài toán rất là dễ dàng, và các em luôn luôn nhớ được công thức tính diện tích và tính chu vi của hình vuông hình chữ nhật nhé.